Good evening, good folks, and welcome to the City of Muskegon City Commission General Session for this Tuesday, October 14th, 2025. Before we get on with our meeting, I want to remind folks we do have a few different public comment periods or opportunities this evening. Towards the beginning of the meeting, we have public hearings. Then we'll have public comment on agenda items. So anything that's on the agenda, you'll have opportunity to give input on. Then there'll be general public comment at the end of the commission meeting. In any of those instances, you have up to 3 minutes to provide remarks. If you wish to give public comment, I encourage you to complete the public comment form at the back of the room. Please provide your name and home address. Note I will not be sharing your home address, announcing it publicly, nor asking you to announce it publicly. That's for our records. I will be acknowledging which neighborhood you're coming from, if you are a City of Muskegon resident, and if you're not a City of Muskegon resident, which other township, village, or city you may be joining us from. We also have phone-in comments, so folks at home will have an opportunity to call in. And that phone number is 231-724-6721. That's just for reference right now, but don't use it. When we're ready for phone-in comments, it'll be scrolling at the bottom of the screen indicating that we have phone-in comments, and the phone number will be displayed there as well. During public comment, it is an opportunity for folks to give input directly to the City Commission, not necessarily a time for Q&A or back and forth engagement. If that is necessary or desired, we can arrange that at a separate time and place. All right, we're going to get started with prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. We actually do not have the pastor here lead us in prayer, so we're just going to have a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you wish to join us in either of those activities, I ask that you stand if you're so capable of doing so. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have roll call, please?
Mayor Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Kilgo,
Here.
Commissioner Keener, absent, Commissioner German,
Here.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yep, here.
Commissioner Cochin,
Here.
Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Here.
Thank you. We do not have any honors, awards, and presentations for this evening, so we'll move on to public hearings. The first one is for the establishment of a commercial redevelopment district for 431 East Laketon Avenue. Good evening.
Good evening. Hello, I'm Jocelyn Hines, Development Analyst here at the City of Muskegon. So I am presenting with you all a establishment of a commercial redevelopment district. So this is a process that you must go through establishing the district prior to an applicant can apply for a commercial facilities exemption certificate. So Gigi's Grill has requested the establishment of a commercial redevelopment district. They are planning to transform a recent church building into a restaurant, and when we get to it, our certificate will allow the taxes to be frozen. The taxes to be frozen at pre-development numbers.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, and so there's two items to this. First is the creation of the district, and followed by the issuance of a commercial facilities exemption certificate. So there'll be two back-to-back hearings. We're going to open up to public comment at this time if anyone wishes to give commentary on this item. And if you're the applicant, we can invite you up separately. But if there's anyone that wishes to give public comment on the establishment of a commercial redevelopment district at 431 East Laketon Avenue, now would be your time. All right, seeing no one wishing to give public comment on this item, we're going to go to the phones. That number is 231-724-6721. Does not sound like we have any callers for this public hearing. Commissioners, I'm going to open up to any questions you may have of staff, and then we'll invite up the developer for this property as well to hear from them. Any questions for staff at this time? Commissioner Kilgo.
Good evening, Ms. Hines. Thank you. Can you tell the commission a little bit about what is currently there if the taxes are locked at the current rates? What is currently on the property and is it being utilized right now?
Yeah, so the church was recently, the building was recently a church. Considering it is transitioning to a commercial building, we did work with the assessor's office to give it a taxable value. As you all can see in your packet, I think the taxable value of the property is currently like $60,900. Considering we're after so the PA 255 allows for the taxes to be frozen at the preceding year, which will be locked in at that $60,900. So it will not stay at zero because it's transitioning to a commercial building and because it was a church.
Yeah, that was my question, because church would have been tax exempt prior. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo. Before we proceed with any additional questions, I should have asked for a motion to close the public hearing and approve the establishment, and then we'll engage in question and comments.
Yeah, I'd be happy to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Support.
And also approve the establishment of the commercial
I'm sorry.
redevelopment district
Yes,
for 431 East Laketon, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the resolution.
so moved.
So moved. Okay. You got support by Commissioner Cochin? All right, we've got a motion by Commissioner Kilgo, supported by Commissioner Cochin. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments with regard to establishing the district for staff? Okay, we're going to invite up. Are you with this Gigi's restaurant?
Yes. That's
If you'd kindly introduce yourself.
I'm Luis. I'm the owner of Gigi's Grill. Trying to, keep moving with the business.
Nice. Welcome, Luis. And what do you want to share with us this evening? About you're already operating outside of.
Yes. So far, I don't know. Well, we're working outside, working hard as we can. Winter's coming. We're trying to do moving out, and so far everything's doing great. And people looking for a job, and I saying, "Oh, I'm trying to get more, bigger." But that's the plan.
Nice. So you're able to take advantage of our mobile vending program and test the waters and seeing good response and
Correct.
Being welcomed and embraced by the neighborhood, and now you want to make some investments right here in Muskegon and have a permanent location. Excellent. And returning that facility to a restaurant, what it was original purpose. So nice. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Luis? Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and welcome, and good evening. I'm familiar with that location in your area. I see you out there all the time, and it's very receptive to the public. A lot of residents come over there, so it's good that you're making the attempt to have a brick and mortar, because it's getting cold for one, and ready, so. But and I've heard good things about your food and things like that. I haven't
Thank you.
tried it yet, but that's great. So, yeah, just wanted to share those comments
Oh,
with you.
thank you so much. Hopefully, see you guys there soon.
Thank you, Commissioner German. Did I see?
Yeah.
Commissioner Cochin.
Not really a question, but in the same vein of Commissioner German, I would like to thank you for investing in Muskegon and looking to, put down more roots that are not mobile roots as far as your business goes. And I'm really looking forward to the opening.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, let us know. Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves because we haven't approved the district certificate. But when you do open, let us know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Unless there's anything else, commissioners, we're going to go to roll call on this.
Commissioner Kilgo,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Our next public hearing is with regard to the issuance of a commercial facilities exemption certificate for 431 East Laketon Avenue. Welcome back.
Good evening. It's me again, Jocelyn Hines, Development Analyst for the City of Muskegon. So now I'm presenting you all with the issuance of the commercial facilities exemption. Like I've shared prior, at the public hearing prior to this is that this allows for the taxes to be frozen at the pre-development rate. And so just like Louise has shared, they plan to rehabilitate this building that was once a church into a restaurant. They're hoping to hire about 7 to 10 servers and workers in the restaurant. And it's really nice to see a tax exempt building become more of a commercial property. This building was a great candidate for something like this, considering it's locally owned. It is located in one of our redevelopment areas, and so it's a great opportunity to see the building utilized in this way through this opportunity.
Here, here. Thank you, Analyst Hines. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to give comment with regard to the issuance of this commercial facilities exemption certificate? See no takers in the audience. We are going to go to the phones. That number is 231-724-6721. This is an opportunity to give public comment specifically with regard to the issuance of a commercial facilities exemption certificate at 431 East Laketon Avenue. Does not sound like we have any takers for phone and comments of this public hearing. So we may proceed. Commissioners, I would entertain a motion.
I move to close the public hearing and approve an 8-year commercial facilities exemption certificate for Gigi's Grill and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the resolution.
Support.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor St. Clair, supported by Commissioner Cochin. Any additional questions
No.
or comments, Commissioners? Since the previous public hearing and motion. All right. Just want to, as was noted, that this has been operating as a church and as such has been tax exempt. So with this moving forward and providing this 8-year commercial facilities exemption certificate for it to return to restaurant or commercial activity, while we're freezing the taxable value, we're actually going to see an increase in taxes collected because of its existing tax exemption certificate. Oftentimes when we approve these types of incentives, we don't see an increase. It's just freezing what we're already receiving. But in this case, because there's a change in use and it's becoming commercial property, we will see an increase in property taxes collected while still being able to incent and support new investment in our city. And so thank you, Mr. Luis, for your investment and choosing to grow with Muskegon. And I look forward to seeing the restaurant alive again. Roll call, please.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next is time for federal, state, and county officials updates. If we have any representatives from any other level of government that wishes to address us tonight. I see no takers. We're going to move on to public comment on agenda items. I have one form received at this time. There's still opportunity to give public comment on agenda items if you wish to do so. I encourage you to complete the form at the back of the room. First up, we have John Richard Allen joining us from the Nelson neighborhood. Welcome, sir. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Yeah, good evening. I request consent agenda item G be pulled for immediate discussion and for its outright denial. The cooperative use agreement you signed on our behalf has been fundamentally and materially breached. The time for half measures of the past is over. This isn't just about another missed deadline, it's recognizing this pattern of failure that has left our public waterfront hostage to a private developer's collapse. The agreement is explicitly clear. Public improvements were to be completed contemporaneously with the private development. That promise was broken. While the developer focused on their revenue-generating assets, our public spaces were left to languish, and lest we forget, our public peninsula planted with native species of fauna was completely clear-cut and destroyed without permission by the developer. But let's look at the simple facts, and not the never-ending litany of excuses, letters, and deferred blame we hear from this developer. The city manager's letter from May outlined the staggering lack of progress. Of 84 required streetlights, 5 are installed. Of 65 pedestrian lights, 0. Of 36 bollard lights, you guessed it, zero. The East Basin parking lot, not even started. All this isn't even counting the material breaches of the agreement, which includes the clause of abiding by all laws, which was breached by their violations of state environmental laws. This isn't contemporaneous development. It's a one-sided deal that has become an unmitigated disaster of neglect. On May 14th, the city manager sent an official letter putting the developer on notice of these breaches. That letter served as a legal notice to cure, giving them a reasonable final deadline of November 1st to fulfill their delinquent obligations. It was a fair and final chance to make good on their promises. We're days from that deadline with no possible cure in sight. Instead of improvements or progress, we now have court documents that paint a horrifying picture of financial chaos that many residents warned this agreement would entangle us with. These documents describe a project in a terminal tailspin with a developer who is, quote, simply out of money and out of time. The documents state that while the developer presented audacious ideas to save the project, exactly zero have come to fruition. It's also noted they lack the internal financial leadership, processes, and technical accounting knowledge to properly account for a project of this magnitude. It's so dire, the developer took a cash advance loan of $250,000 with a horrifying repayment schedule. This is not who we as a city or county should ever be contractually involved with. Nonetheless, the developer was given proper notice. They were given a chance to cure the default and breaches of the CUA. They have failed. And unsurprisingly, after all this, they have the audacity to ask us for an extension. To grant that request would be to ignore your own city manager's official notice and to render city contracts completely meaningless. It would be an act of profound fiscal irresponsibility tethering public land to a demonstrably insolvent partner. It rewards a developer who is, by every objective measure, incapable of fulfilling their commitments. I'm not merely asking you to vote no on an extension. As a citizen of the city, I am compelling you to fulfill your duty. The conditions for termination have been met. I would sternly request you direct the city attorney to act on the developer's failure and initiate formal termination of the cooperative use agreement. Thank you.
Sir. Appreciate you sharing your perspective. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to give public comment on an agenda item or items at this time? Seeing no takers in the audience, we are going to go to the phones. That number is 231-724-6721. This is an opportunity for you to phone in your public comment with regard to agenda items specifically. If you're going to call in, please turn down any audio in the background, state your name, if you're a city resident, which neighborhood you're calling us from, and if you're not a City of Muskegon resident, which other township, village, or city you may be calling from, and then recognize which agenda items you are calling about. And again, that phone number is 231-724-6721.
We have Jamie Cross.
All right. Good evening. We have Jamie Cross joining us from the NIMS neighborhood. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks, and please reference the agenda item.
This is for the Adelaide Point extension. So, as many of you know, I have filed and commented on this project at the Planning City Commission meeting since its inception. In the beginning, I was supportive of the Adelaide Point project. My concern was always the use of the city park for their business interests. And as the project commenced, and I watched as the developer threatened the community and individuals, didn't follow his state and federal permits, was signed, was cited for multiple permit violations, did not pay his contractors, and blatantly ignored what he had promised to the community. My concerns grew to the potential negative impacts to the lake and the community. All those concerns are now realized. In regard to the park specifically, the only improvement the developer has completed is reinforcing the area along the seawall adjacent to the public boat launch in order to launch his boats for AP's Dry Rack Marina. It's not, he also did not complete the upgrade to the bathrooms, which were promised in the 2/14/23 commission meeting, nor the flag people that were used along public areas when AP boats were meeting. Now what we have is a golf cart that drives around the area quickly, like they own Hartshorn Marina. And only one of the 3 docks to the Dry Rack Marina have been installed. The bike path in the wetland area has not been raised. And I want to add quickly, hopefully I can get this in, is a note from a 7/21 Eagle meeting summing up a point that the developer said. So I'm just going to read it off. During our discussion, when we were talking about the level of detail needed to be provided in the plan, this is referencing the restoration of what was destroyed in the construction. Ryan made an interesting comment that he does not deal well with details and prefers to jump into matter and work out the details later. And he considers everything to be changeable. I think the most important thing is here that he assumes, as he has with other control documents issued by the Water Resource Department, that no matter what he agreed to, it would be able to change it down the line or just do what he wanted to in the first place. So that's the gist, I think, of where things are going. And I hope that the City Commission speaks strongly and makes sure that whatever has been promised to the community in terms of the park, that it happens, or there's actionable items that can be taken. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cross. Appreciate you phoning in. Give a few more moments for anyone else wishing to phone in their comments. Doesn't sound like any additional takers for phone-in comments.
No, Mayor.
All right. Commissioners, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. You've had an opportunity to review. Are there any items that you wish to have removed for separate consideration and vote? Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Item G, H, and J.
All right. Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Item C, please.
Commissioner Kilgo.
Items M as in Mary and N as in Nancy.
If there are no other items, Commissioners, I would entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented, minus items C, G, H, J, M, and N.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Kilgo, supported by Vice Mayor St. Clair. No discussion. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo,
Yes.
Commissioner German.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. First item, Laketon Lakeshore Trail Connector Engineering Change Order. Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Motion for approval for staff to enter into an amended professional services agreement with Prine and Newhoff in the amount of $69,590 for final design and construction services related to the Laketon Lakeshore Trail Connector.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Vice Mayor St. Clair, supported by Commissioner Kilgo. Good evening and welcome. Kindly introduce yourself and please report out on this item.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Dan Vanderhyde, Director of Public Works for the city. This is a request for additional funding for engineering services for finalizing the Laketon Lakeshore Trail Connector project. That project, although it's been a minute since it was before you, has been here several times. It is a trail that will connect the Laketon Trail and the Lakeshore Trail. Specifically, it will run up the east side of Sanford Street, and then in the portion of Terrace Street that was removed a couple years ago, so on what used to be the southbound side in that grass area. And it will connect, it will be the last piece in a non-motorized trail system that goes to Grand Rapids and Hart and beyond in various different directions, completely off the road throughout that entire stretch. The project received a healthy grant from the MDOT TAP program, which is Transportation Alternatives Program. MDOT has offered just shy of $2 million for the project, and the city will match that with just under $1 million. And the TAP grant program involves several things that they obligate the city to do. And several of those things went longer and more complicated than we hoped. There is a list in the proposal from Prine and Newhoff, but in summary, the two biggest ones were additional grant applications that we made to the DNR and to other state organizations, MEDC, to attempt to help cover the city's match. Unfortunately, we were not successful with those, but we are prepared to cover that match out of funds on hand. And then we had a very lengthy environmental review process, including review by the State Historic Preservation Office, which required studying whether the trail went through a potential historic district and a few other things. And so all of those extra requirements have exhausted the money that we had programmed and budgeted for finishing the design and construction of the trail, engineering services related to the construction of the trail. And so this request is for an amount that will allow us to finish that design and the construction services. The trail is planned to be built next year, coordinated with MDOT's reconstruction of Apple Avenue, which it will cross.
Excellent. Thank you, Director Vanderhyde. Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Thank you. So this project predates both you and I in our roles with the city. But I will say I'm very excited to see us at a point where we can be connecting the last leg of this trail. I think that it's something that we've been working towards as a community for a really long time, and I want to commend staff's endless efforts at trying to get this last little leg figured out. It's a very small distance that has separated a really incredible trail possibility. And I think one of the things that I'm most excited about is, can you talk about where it's going to be in front of City Hall?
Yeah, so it will kind of run up the east side of Sanford, as I said, opposite the side from the school. So it'll be on the east side. It will cross Apple Avenue, and it will run through, effectively through Lighton Park, right out kind of the front door of City Hall here, travel through that extra wide grass area that was created a few years ago. It'll run down past the farmer's market and across Shoreline Drive, across the railroad tracks, and connect to the Shoreline Trail. There will be a couple trailheads along that route, one at the park, well, three actually, one down at Laketon, one at Lighton Park, and one just across the railroad tracks where it connects to the Shoreline Trail.
I've had a lot of people ask me about the giant terrace on Terrace, and what were we thinking when they pulled out the lane? And I have assured them for years now that there was a plan and that it was a thought out design and that we just need to pull the rest of the money together. And I'm gratified to see that design loop will close soon. So thank you.
Here, here. Thank you, Vice Mayor St. Clair. Commissioner Kogo?
Nothing.
Commissioners, anything else to ask or add? Commissioner Cochin.
Yes, I would like to echo Vice Mayor's sentiments. This is a really great feat if we can get it all together. And I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing it finished. I do have one question though. When you were describing the amounts, Director Vanderhyde, have we already spent these amounts? Is that what I'm looking at here? The 11,980, the 17,340, or are these amounts that we are looking to spend?
So those are amounts that have been spent associated with each of those tasks. Those amounts were taken from the contract that Prine and Newhoff was awarded to design and oversee the construction of the trail. So they had authorization to proceed through that process, but over the last year or so, as I said, that TAP grant program proved more complicated and lengthy than we anticipated, and so they've worked through, virtually all of that original contract and budget.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I'm hearing is we tried to get the grants, couldn't get them to cover these funds, basically, and so now we're coming to the commission to ask for the approval.
Grants would have helped with them, yes, for sure.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Anything else? Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Director Vanderhyde. second phase of this project, as I call it, I actually reside on Sanford, and they did an excellent job. Now, what I'm getting from residents and constituents, the width of that project for the lanes on the terrace, what would that be? Do you have any idea?
Throughout the entire length and also specifically on Sanford, there will be 10 feet wide.
10 feet wide. Okay. All right. Now, another question also, when we had those improvements to the streets, some of the sidewalks were not repaired. What is the plan for that? Is that something that residents need to let the city know? Because there are some damaged sidewalks that didn't get replaced during those improvements to the roads.
Yeah, so assuming you're talking about locations on the east side
Yeah.
of Sanford, then all of those locations will be replaced with this project.
Okay, so
Yep.
everything that's broken and cracked, and okay, we can assure residents and constituents that those would be repaired. Great. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
The trail will be going in where the sidewalk is, so it'll be a 10-foot wide.
It's
shared
good.
use
Yeah,
path.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
gonna
But those
replace
little
the
patches.
sidewalk.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yep.
That's
okay.
why some of those weren't necessarily repaired. At
Right.
one point, there was talk of just leaving it all dirt. And I was like,
Yeah,
no.
no.
I was like, that's highly trafficked
Yeah.
pedestrian area. Like, we need to put sidewalk back in
Right.
there.
Okay,
So,
that's good to know.
but I am thoroughly excited that we're moving forward with this, something that we've been diligently working towards. And there were some hiccups. You know, the state funding didn't come through as early as we thought, because we were hoping to have this installed back in 2022. And but we've been working diligently at it. Got the additional funding. We didn't get as many buckets of funding as we were hoping to help defray the costs coming out of our coffers. But this is a worthwhile project that aligns with our objectives as a city, as well as reinforces and supports the Shoreline Trail and Greenway plan that was just recently completed, of which we were a principal partner in. And I'm really excited to not only see that connection of the Laketon and Lakeshore Trail, so you have that continuous, be able to go from Hart to Grand Rapids, right to the heart of our downtown, have that continuous trail, but also improving multimodal transportation options for our community. I mean, this is going to help connect our inner city neighborhoods as well with this connector. So, a lot to like about it, and I really appreciate Director Van Hyde, you and your team keeping at this and bringing this forward to us so that we can finally get that connector done. And as Vice Mayor St. Clair said, our community can understand why there are extra wide terraces on Terrace, and there have been that way for as long as they have been, and why we've not necessarily done landscaping on them to spruce it up, because we've been waiting to get this project secured and moved forward with. And so we'll get the trail in, and then we can look at potential landscaping and the like. So thank you so much, Director Van Hyde. Roll call, please. Oh, you had follow-up?
Yeah.
Commissioner
sorry.
Cochin?
I'm sorry. When you were mentioning that, Mr. Mayor, something clicked in my brain. When we were looking to do the flower design, we did not look at the terrace area because there's not piping for sprinkling down there. Are we going to be putting that in there? Because I don't see it in here.
It is planned as part of the project, yes.
It is. Okay, all right, thank you.
Irrigation is forthcoming. So, all right, unless there's anything else. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cochin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item, G, Adelaide Point, extension of timeline for park-like improvements, Hartshorn Peninsula. Commissioner German.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mayor. I move to extend the deadline for park improvement at Hartshorn Park and launch ramp until May 1st, 2026.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Kilgo. Our city manager is going to be reporting out on this item.
So this, as was noted during public comment back in May, the city had put a deadline in of November 1st for the bike trail and park-like improvements to be completed, consistent with what the cooperative use agreement showed. At that point in time, we thought that was an ample amount of time to get this work done. The reality of the situation on the ground right now has changed substantially since we initially sent that letter. And several weeks ago, there was an order that was filed in Kent County by Independent Bank to assign a receiver on this project. As part of that, legal counsel and myself and other staff met with legal counsel from Independent Bank and staff from Independent Bank to talk about the various parts of the project that we have working together with both the developer and now potentially other parties as well. The reason for the extension in this instance is because through our conversations with Independent Bank, in an effort to try to keep things from getting even more complicated than they already are, it would be helpful if there was additional time for the park-like improvements on Hartshorn Peninsula to be completed. This isn't about accommodating a request from the developer necessarily. This is about working with all the different parties that are involved and what's in the best interest of the community as a whole in the long run. If the cooperative use agreement were to go away, it guarantees that a number of other dominoes would fall that would cause even more complications from a legal standpoint, that would either put the city in a position that we have to do all of the improvements on our own, or that they won't happen for a long period of time because of the various legal things that would occur as a result of the cooperative use agreement going away. We did put a deadline in place. It was our intent that if November 1st came around and they weren't done, that as was already noted, that was noticed, and then we would either do a 30 or 60-day timeline per the cooperative use agreement to note that it would be terminated. Given the events that have occurred, no matter what one's opinion is of those events, we need to let the court process play out without further complicating it.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, for that report. Commissioner German, as the maker of the motion.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The reason for pulling this off the agenda is because it's been a lot of concerns from the public, the community. I've had concerns, and I'd like to hear from also the developer at some time. But I know we've had conversations as a commission as well, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around, what's been the holdup and why this project is where it's at and have not met those deadlines. And I guess the developer probably can better answer those questions. But then some other red flags that came up and concerns I'm hearing from constituents and people in the community about the safety of the lake, permits violations. So there's some major concerns that I have that I'd like to hear about and then also be addressed. So that's the reason for me pulling this off the agenda. So, and I'm sure commissioners have questions as well.
Thank you, Commissioner German. As supporter of the motion, Commissioner Kilgo, do you have anything to ask or add at this time?
I do. So I also would like to hear from the developer, but for the manager, for my recollection, this is the first time, when we sent the original deadline, it did not come to the dais. It just went through a letter to the developer. Is that correct?
That's correct. It came from a conversation and directive from the commission to me.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. I know we talked about it, but I just want to make sure, so the public knows it wasn't, this is the first time we're talking about it at a commission meeting. Sending the letter, the deadline, the original deadline that's coming up November. That was not
the letter and the deadline itself did not come to the commission for formal approval before being sent.
Correct.
There was discussion by the commission with the city manager about sending the letter and what all that entailed.
Correct. So that's what I thought. I just want a clarification on that. I'm a developer. Anyone in this room that's remodeled their kitchen is a developer. I know that sometimes in development, you run into unexpected things that make delays or make things more expensive, so on and so forth. I do not want to see more hindrances with this project. I would love to see this project completed. I know that there are people who have already put down money to move into the actual condo building of Adelaide Point. I understand that the marina and the event center, which is separate, are up and running, but there are people who are waiting for the condo because they want to live on Muskegon Lake in the city of Muskegon. As you stated, Mr. Manager, if the cooperative use agreement goes away, I do think there are more further hindrances that would put the project in jeopardy. As they say, winter is coming. By extending, this is just my thought, by extending the deadline to May, it would give the developer the project an opportunity to not only complete what they have to do on finishing the building side, but what they have to do on our cooperative use agreement that said that they were going to do the things listed here. So, as far as for staff and for the manager, that's what I have to say about that part.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo. Before we invite up the principal with the development, commissioners, do you have any questions for the manager? Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Thank you. So, as someone who is not a developer, or a bank representative, or many things, I think it might be helpful to hear more information about what it means to be in a receivership with the bank and what sort of impact that would have going forward. Is that something that you can speak to?
I would
Or legal
defer to
counsel can
legal
speak
counsel.
to that?
The concept essentially is that the court has been, the Kent County Circuit Court has been asked to appoint a receiver. The court, in fashioning and granting, if they grant that request and they appoint a receiver, they will also outline the parameters under which the receiver may act alone as opposed to the receiver needing to get permission from the court. I suspect that the court will do some of both. There will be some things that the receiver on his own would be able to do. Others would require court approval, perhaps notice, perhaps a hearing, unknown. But essentially, the receiver becomes the person in charge. He becomes the new decision maker. It's not the bank that's deciding. It's not the owner that's deciding. It's the receiver. Now, clearly, the receiver is going to try and work in cooperation with all parties, including the city, so that what is the receiver's goal is to get the project completed into a position that the project is done. Presumably at that point, there will be some discussions about what happens next, and the court will be involved in that process. But essentially, the receiver becomes the point person, the decision maker, etc.
So, if there is a receiver appointed, which will be up to the judge, then we would be working primarily with the receiver rather than the developer on the cooperative use agreement and the improvements that we are requesting.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
With one caveat, the court in front of it as of today only involves the condo project, etc. The other parcels in the development are not yet covered by that court pleadings.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor St. Clair. Commissioner Cochin.
Yes, thank you. To piggyback off of Vice Mayor St. Clair's question before I get into the other ones, what other parcels are not impacted by this? Just so
By the
people can
receiver?
understand. Yeah.
by the receiver, it is the entire rest of the project.
Okay, so
The
we're,
only thing that is in front of the Kent County Circuit Judge at this point is the condo, and there's a parking area that goes with the condo.
okay. Mr. Manager, I believe this question would be for you. So, we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but people have asked, is this a continuation of the CUA?
This is not a continuation of the CUA. This is a extension of the grace period that we gave him in our May 2025 letter.
Okay. What was the intent with the May 2025 letter?
The intent was to notify the developer that the city did not feel that they were meeting their obligations under the cooperative use agreement and the PUD that had been approved by the city, and to put a deadline in place for those improvements to occur. There were a handful of items that were on that list: park-like improvements, the parking lot area on Hartshorn Peninsula, as well as the completion of the bike path. The bike path has been completed. The other two items on Hartshorn Peninsula have not been completed. So the developer has partially met what we had set out as objectives for the letter. I should also note that the improvements that the city detailed that we desired to have completed by November 1st were different, less intense than what the PUD approval was. The reason for that is subsequently to the PUD being approved, we entered into a master planning process in the Parks Department. Specifically, one of the parks was Hartshorn Launch Ramp and Park, where the public provided feedback on improvements that they wanted to see on the peninsula at Hartshorn, which were different than what the PUD was. So the staff, in consultation with Commission, noted that the improvements that the developer would have to do were actually at a lesser threshold than what was initially there.
Okay. So do you feel like there's been a show of good faith in getting some of these things done?
We're closer to the objective that we had when we wrote the letter than we were in May with the completion of. So if you want to say that's a show of good faith, yes, there are still things that are undone. With the current situation there, I don't think it's realistic to expect that it would be done by November 1st.
Okay. You've kind of talked about it right now at the beginning, like what happens if we pull the pin on the agreement. Some folks at home had asked me about how that would work with Independent Bank, and if this is something that we would want to continue, basically give it, a continuance to until May, to kind of help with that process. Do you still feel like that is in our best interest?
To allow the additional grace period? Yes, because I think, as I noted at the beginning of the conversation, if the cooperative use agreement was to go away, that greatly complicates the process, not just for Independent Bank, but other lenders that are involved in the discussion. I can't speak for what other entities would do. I don't sit in their boardrooms and have those discussions, but without the cooperative use agreement, that takes away the operational capability of the dry marina portion of Adelaide Point. So looking at how that impacts the overall project, you'd have to consider those factors there. And I can say in the conversation that we had with Independent Bank, the questions did come up about our willingness to continue the cooperative use agreement, as they were made aware of the May 2025 letter that we had sent to the developer. And the city also provided them with copies of that letter and the cooperative use agreement in our meeting. So.
Okay. You mentioned the bike path. I know that we've discussed the bike path quite a bit here at the commission. So you said that the bike path is completed. Is that our bike path?
So it is our bike path. However, because the bike path moved during the construction process, the current legal description does not fit where the bike path is at. The city, with city staff working with Lakeshore? West Shore, sorry, thank you. West Shore Environmental is doing the survey right now to get the updated legal description for the bike path. One of the things that I noted in my communication was that needing to be recorded by December 1st, and the city chose to be the one to do that work, so that way we could ensure that it was done. And the cleaner all of the legal proceedings are in this instance, it makes it easier to get that that deed signed off on and recorded with the Register of Deeds. If there are additional parties that were involved, then my presumption and legal counsel could, correct me if I'm wrong, complicate how that transfer would occur, because a good portion of that bike path is currently sitting on AP property.
Okay.
And this has always been the intent, was that once it was built, the legal description would be updated and that would be transferred back to us. That's just at the point that we're at in the process.
Okay. So it sounds like we need more time to get that done.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. In regards to things that are ours and were ours, I heard recently that a part of the peninsula has been in question as to what is ours and what is not ours. Are you privy to that?
What peninsula?
The peninsula by the small boat basin?
The Hartshorn.
Central, just talking about Central.
Oh, the Central Peninsula.
Yes.
So I don't know that there's any question there. The Central Peninsula and the question of ownership on that has been discussed since the 1980s with the industrial company that was there. There is a portion of the Central Peninsula that the city, when you're looking at a map, would own. However, it's not accessible without going over the private property of the developer. And it
Unless
just has
we're
to-
going by boat.
Unless you're going by boat, yes. So there is a small portion of that property that is city property. There is a disagreement on the part of the property owner, and it's not just the current property owner, it's been every property owner going back to the 1980s, and that is not an original feature of Muskegon Lake. That is infill from industrial discharge. And so the portion over time that became publicly owned just had to do with kind of, the meets and bounds of where lines go out into the lake. So,
Okay. Is that going to be a part of
no.
any legal discussions when we're talking about the bike path?
No.
That is not. Okay.
No.
Mr. Allen had mentioned the work not being contemporaneously done. And do you feel like that's the reason why the letter was sent out, was to kind of say, hey, this needs to get done and we need to do it?
Yes, I think as the letter stated, the CUA clearly states that the agreement or that the improvements would happen contemporaneously with all improvements at Adelaide Point through the PUD, and that did not occur. I think that was outlined in the letter.
Okay. I have more questions for the developer, but I believe that answers a lot of my questions. It just sounds like we might need some more time, regardless how we feel about the whole thing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Before I call up the developer or the principal with the development, Commissioner Gorman, do you have anything to ask of the manager at this time? All right.
I got another
You have
question or
follow-up
two.
for the manager?
Yeah. And just looking at it holistically, looking at this whole project, as I stated to the developer once he proposed this proposal to the commission back then, I definitely wanted to see this succeed and come into fruition. I'm being business friendly, with private developers as we partner with them. It is my intent to, have them succeed. However, there's been some hiccups here. And when I get the feedback from the community and the concern about violations and permit violations and disturbance to the water due to dredging. Could you, City Manager, just brief the public and the Commission on how many violations, if you have that information available, that this developer has not complied with or came into some type of violation from Eagle?
I don't know the number of
yeah,
violations
yeah.
on top of my head with Eagle. I know the violation amount and the amount of money that the developer would likely have to incur to remediate, which is close to $5 million, I believe. And that's not penalties. That's the work to have done. Yeah.
Okay, and some of those violations for not pulling permits or the dredging from the water, have those been met? There was some concerns about that, so, and which was public information, but I'm just trying to paint a picture to see where we're at and have those critical situations been addressed, and it may determine how we move forward on my part.
But that would be more of a question for Eagle. I do know that they're still working through that regarding remediation of wetlands and things of that nature. But that's an enforcement conversation with Eagle that we're not necessarily privy to. There was a violation that came out, I believe it was last week, for which there were no fines, and the city received the violation notice as well as a contractor of the developer for modifications that were made to a dock. Those have been remediated. The improvements that were not in line with the permit have been removed. We've photographic evidence of that, and the city responded, and I copied the commission on that response last week. Per an email from Eagle today that I was copied on, that satisfies that violation that we are a party to.
Okay. All right, thank you. Yeah. I have nothing else, maybe.
Thank you, Commissioner German.
Yeah.
So this original letter from May was sent to Mr. Liesma. The letter response requesting an extension from Ms. Glick. Which of you, or both of you, wish to address the City Commission on this matter? All right, if you please introduce yourself.
Excuse me, Ryan Liesma. Oh boy. Adelaide Point.
All right. Do you just want to field questions, or do you want to share any input with any thoughts with the City Commission before I go to Commissioner German and the other commissioners?
Obviously, there's a ton going on, and I've kind of sat in the middle of all of it, and there's a lot of questions. I do want to address one thing that you said, Commissioner German, about contemporaneous improvements. One of my goals from the very, very beginning was to not just improve the property that I bought, but also improve the Hartshorn property. So the day after the cooperative use agreement was signed, we went in there and started making improvements immediately. We took down the fence, we started raising the grade because it constantly flooded. We did the parking lot base prep. I cleared things out, which ended up being a point of major contention, which I apologize for. I thought I was doing the right thing by making the whole peninsula accessible to everybody. Took out trash. We actually started demoing the interior of the bathroom building. So all the pipes were broke, messed up. It was a total disaster. And we actually started taking all the bad piping out and everything. And I actually bought $35,000 worth of sinks and toilets and outdoor showers that I was going to put in. This all happened like immediately, right? At the time, I was told to slow down, don't go so fast. Let's talk about the bathroom first, but I don't think anybody has accused me of being slow. But it was very important for me to make those improvements, and I tried to do that immediately. When it came to the forklift drop, when I started working out there, I found out that there was a cavity that he had eroded underneath the cement slab. The engineer said that it was 8 inches thick, but they shorted the concrete. It was only 6 inches thick, and that there was a hole about this big that was underneath, and that's why it was starting to crack. Right, so it wasn't just something that I could fix one particular area. We ended up taking all of it out and putting in concrete that went down, way down, right? I mean, it will be there for 200 years, right, to make sure that it was safe. So all told, Emily and I have put probably about $400,000 worth of improvements into Hartshorn. It's important. I probably would have kept up the same level of pace of improvements, but with a lot of the controversy that was created, it made me extremely nervous about, getting criticized again, right? And so I just kind of slowed down on everything, and I haven't wanted to do anything out there unless, it's a very, very explicit, well-defined request. And I'm going to kind of go off of the rails here a little bit, but Adelaide Point is an enormous project. It's going to be the largest waterfront, resort in the state of Michigan, and it's one of the largest developments in terms of scale and investment that has ever been done on the waterfront in the state of Michigan. And the reason it works is because you come in for one thing and you're going to stay for a whole bunch of other things. Public access was incredibly important to me. That's why I put a huge focus on it when doing the project. But when you're starting up 5 new business units and you're building 4 new buildings and a wet marina and roads and infrastructure and all these different things in 18 months, that's a Herculean effort. And because of, great people like Aubrey and our staff, we were able to get it done. I think what a lot of people don't understand about creating things in buildings and businesses and hiring talent and training them and dealing with problems and, oh, we forgot that, or oh, we forgot this, that there are millions of details that go into building something like that. And so you do kind of find yourself going, okay, what's the big problem that I got to solve right now? Okay, we go over there, right? Okay, what's the problem that we got to solve? Okay, you go over there and you take care of that, right? It is an incredibly dynamic thing. It's very easy to buy a building that already has mops in the janitor's closet because somebody already did all the setup. It's something entirely different when you're starting from scratch all the way around. You can make a strong argument that if we took 10 years to build it, that the same number of mistakes would have happened over those 10 years is what happened over 18 months. We made mistakes for sure, 100%, right? I mean, we'll never deny that. And we made assumptions that were incorrect. But all of flaws, faults, mistakes, missteps, overlooks that are inherent in all human beings happen in a very short amount of time, right? So somebody dug on the wrong side of the peninsula. In my mind, incredibly dumb. But it happened. And somebody didn't tie the turbidity curtain on when they were hydraulic dredging. It went loose. They didn't see it. Incredibly dumb. These things happen, right? But we're at the point right now where, there are some comments made about we want to see the project complete. Well, the reality of it is that it is. I mean, the utilities are in, the roads are in, the restaurant is running, the multi-use building is up and running, the event center is going, people are having weddings. We're adding dry slips and wet slips at a pace of 50% year over year. I mean, people are we've got people riding out on the bike path. Only one person has fallen in so far. There's a question about whether or not we should have a guardrail, but some people don't want it, Cat, because they don't want to have the view interrupted. But we have people who are enjoying the entire campus, right? The condo core and shell is done. The people that bought condos, their money is actually escrowed. It's not something that goes through me at this point. So at this point, it's basically just about absorption. It's about filling all the rest of the condos. It's about filling all the rest of the wet slips. It's about filling all the rest of the dry slips. And I know that's hard for, people to kind of see, because it just seemed like all kinds of stuff was being done in all kinds of different directions, and then this over here and that over here, and how did that happen? Like the question about the violation on the dock. Right, that wasn't a wanton violation. That was some of my workers who wanted to make it a little bit more safe, and they put in 9 12-inch deck boards on something that could have broken somebody's leg. They meant no harm by it. Right? It wasn't something that's like, oh, let's figure out how to make more dock. I mean, we have very conscientious people that are doing as much as they possibly can to make as many people as happy as possible. Somebody put something on Facebook the other day, was the greatest compliment that I could ever get. And they said the reason to go to Adelaide Point is because the culture of the employees. They are so focused on customer service and making sure that people are happy. That is the reason to go. We have the team, we have the property, we have the facilities, we've built everything. And so I really would say that, the project is complete. We got to sell some more condos. We got to put more boats and slips. But it is there,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Leesma. We're going to open up to questions now from the commission.
Sorry.
Commissioner German?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, again, and Mr. Leesman, thank you for the explanation. And thank you for your effort and trying to move forward with this project. And I've heard some things that that made me pause, and then some things that I could say, okay, great. Just for instance, with the boat dock that was just put in, you said try to make it safe or whatever, one
Yeah,
of
the
your
old dock,
employees
yeah.
there. I mean, yeah, sometimes those things, may be good intentions, but if they're in violation, then they create a liability.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I told my staff very specifically, never ever touch the dock ever again.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there are a lot of things that I think, general members of the population don't understand how big of a deal even something that seems seemingly small is. So it is partly an education of staff on what things to watch out for, what things to be careful of, and that
Right.
was an opportunity to improve that.
Yeah. And I look at the safety, and the health for the public. When we talk about, the dredging, disturbing,
Yeah.
contaminants in the water.
Yeah.
That's very huge.
Yeah.
Before I even became a commissioner running, one of the things that I stated that I would protect our water here in the city. I campaigned on that, and I'm intentional about that. Incidents like that concerns me. And as you said, things happen. My question to you, can you really complete this project, Mr. Leesman? And do you have the capacity to finish it?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, like I said, it's complete in my opinion because everything's been built. Funding the startup of a business is not a small deal, right? The whole mantra of build it and they will come, right? That gap between building it and everybody being there, it takes cash, it takes time to make that happen. And complications make it worse. Like Commissioner Kilgo correctly pointed out that when you're building a kitchen, you're building a house, there's always things that come up. I think one of the strengths that we have as a team is we are wildly resourceful. I mean, we have figured things out, every single time, right? So, I mean, like even in the past week, I raised $1 million, right? I mean, I'm working with 12 different capital partners for solutions. But kind of like what I was saying before is when you're doing something this large, you go kind of, okay, what's the most important thing here? Okay, we got to do that. And then what's the biggest thing going? And you kind of do that. Well, that's now become like my number one priority is to, recapitalize the project and frankly refinance the condos, the warehouses, the boater services, all the collateral that Independent Bank has, because it's important for the continued growth of the project. There was something mentioned about like a receiver. right? A receiver is somebody who's kind of court appointed to come in and make decisions, but the problem is that a receiver has no heart for their community or this community. They just come in and they're just following a checklist, and this is worth this much and this is worth that much, and I'm going to do this and I don't care about that. Well, the fact of the matter is that from the top of the organization all the way down to a busboy, right? We see what we're doing as a mission. We see what we're doing as a mission. You know, for thousands of years, the capitalists were the ones that were allowed to have their big piles of grain and they were allowed to have their wealth. But when a new church needed to be built or a school or a bridge, it was expected that those capitalists would come for it and they would pay for it. If there was a threat that was coming to the community, it was expected that they would arm the people. And it's a very 20th century thing. You just keep all your money to yourself. And so when Emily and I looked at all the opportunities that we had to invest, we saw that as, you know, people who have been blessed, that we had an opportunity to help make this community better and greater and create jobs. Those are the things that capitalists should be doing, not riding around in fancy cars and leaving town. And so we felt that it was a mission, and I think we've been successful in getting there, but it was a lot harder than we thought.
Okay, last question, Mayor. I'll wrap things up. Last question, Mr. Leesma. Can you meet the deadline November 1st? And if not, why? And then I think a lot of this comes down also to planning and management.
Yeah.
For the most part of it, but I want to hear your answer to that.
Yeah, so the subs that we used for, you know, building the road, putting in the concrete, getting the material, all that other stuff, same subs that we've used for a long time, right? Major schedule delays and things like this because of how few people are available in all trades. I think everybody knows how hard it is to get people. You know, there is some money that's owed to them right now. And I'm not in control of issuing those payments. And so I think it would be disingenuous and the wrong thing to do to ask them to come back and to take care of those things because these men have to get paid, right? And so I think that there's a complication there. There's probably a complication in terms of, you know, the schedule. And, you know, to be honest, I've been holed up for the past 2.5 weeks, and the only thing that I've been focusing on is bringing in financial partners to recapitalize the project. Because I am 100%, 1,000,000% convinced that the project won't have the same heart, trajectory, commitment to the public, creating public access, you know, supporting our employees, than somebody who's just coming in from out of town. I am the watcher on the wall on this project. The mistakes I own, whether I did them or not, and the direction and what I do to help people in the project and without is you know, that's my job. But right now I am 1,000,000% focused on fixing this problem because it is the biggest problem right now.
Okay. And again, can you finish complete the requirements by November 1st?
I think that there's
you
going to
on
be
target?
a major scheduling issue with those contractors based on where it's at right now. I mean, they would have to be like, yeah, I'm going to go do that. You know, I mean, people generally like to get paid before they do more work.
By virtue of us having this letter and request for extension, I think it's understood that not able to get.
Yeah.
those
Well,
things done.
I mean, I guess I could go
Yeah.
pour it myself,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, but, you know, I also look at the utility of, you know, over the winter, like how much would it be used if it's in January or what have you. This whole thing kind of threw me for a loop. I got the bike path in.
Yeah.
You know, we were able to take care of that. That happened roughly at around the same time as the parking lot, but, you know, here we
Okay,
are.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
Leesman.
I-
Thank
I-
you,
wanna
Commissioner
make-
German. Commissioner Kilgo.
One other comment to Commissioner German, you were talking about the water, and when we were dredging, we actually had all those samples tested, and they were inert even for PFAS. So there was no like contamination that was, dug out of the bottom, and that was especially in the main basin because that was all sand. It was actually tested clean enough to be used for MDOT. So there was no contamination that was created by the dredging.
Mr. Leetzman, thank you for that. I want to thank our partners at Eagle. They do a great job of keeping our environment clean. As many of us know, we recently had Muskegon Lake taken off the area concerns list, and we would all like to keep our lake clean and beautiful. But that's not what we're here about tonight. I will let Eagle do their job. I'm going to ask some questions. I would really think it's in the best interest of the community to just get straight answers.
Yeah, of course.
You've heard the term keeping it 100. We're going to keep it 100 tonight.
Keep it on what?
We're going to keep it 100. That's how they say it. Okay? In your opinion, what would happen with Adelaide Point? Because tonight, it seems like you're talking about Adelaide Point as a whole. You're not just talking about the condo building, but the event center and the marina and the boat launch and all that stuff. So, in your opinion, what would happen to Adelaide Point if the cooperative use agreement was pulled?
Well, I think one of the things that the commission should know, and probably the public should know, is that the real financial backing of the entire project is my wife and I. When I say that we've invested everything, in our hearts and time and emotion and, money, lots and lots and lots of money. Like we're well over $10 million of investing our own cash. We are putting ourselves on the line for this project, and we have great partners, but we borrow money from them. There's $85 million worth of stuff that was built into that project, and as much as I would like to say we were able to put $85 million into it, that's just not the case. The dry marina has a loan of $4.5 million. As soon as you remove the ability for that building to create revenue, the whole thing flips upside down, and they call the note. That's it. Where's $4.5 million going to come from? That's effectively what happened with the condos, is that they weren't selling as fast. And the appraiser that put together the new appraisal, in a crazy assumption that I could never agree with, thought that the condos were going to sell just as fast, even though we have full-blown demo unit with furniture in a week or two, and all of our amenities are up and running. And it's like, where do you got $4 million, Leesma? I don't know anybody, I guess there's some people that have just, $5, $6, $8 million of cash laying around, right? It takes time to solve those problems, but we are subject to our lenders. That's just the reality. So the CUA would start creating some incredible hardship that would frankly start a domino effect financially. 10 years from now, when our debt is half of what it is now, not as big of a deal. I mean, we would like to work with the city for a very long time, but I mean, that's just the reality of it is, the thing is a teenager right now. It eats everything in the fridge.
I agree. I want to move forward. The reality is the terms of the cooperative use agreement aren't done. You stated twice now that it's done. The event center's done. Some of the other things that you've built, and we're glad to have you in the city of Muskegon, but the cooperative use agreement said that we were going to do A, B, and C, and those things aren't done. So if you can juggle, because you want to get the condo building finished, it's a big part of the development, can you juggle by May 1st? If we give the extension of the cooperative use agreement, will you dedicate yourself to finishing those items that are on the cooperative use agreement that aren't done yet? To say, hey, yeah, you know what, May, 6 months, I can get that done. We'll get it, actually, it's more than 6 months. We can get that done by May 1st. Is that something that you can do?
Yeah, I don't have any issue with that because, I mean, frankly, when the letter came in May that said, hey, you got to get these things done, I mean, contractors, they start building their schedules the season before, right? And so, that created a lot of complications. These guys were all booked out. They actually had to find another vendor to come in and sub for them because my preferred contractor just couldn't get it done. Now is the time to say, okay, I want you to get on the schedule for, say, March 15, right? And so that they're expecting as soon as the frost comes out of the ground, that they can get it done. It's actually not that much. It's not going to cost that much. You know, it's probably going to cost about $30,000 to put in the bike path in the parking lot. So even with all the craziness going on right now, that is not the biggest deal. The biggest deal is actually getting the contractors to show up and do the work. But I think if we were to schedule that at the beginning, say middle of March is what I think. I mean, we were pouring roads in 23 in February, which is incredibly unusual, but I think we can schedule it adequately.
Awesome. I'd like you to be able to get everything done, run your business, make Adelaide Point awesome. But one of my old high school coaches used to say to us, excuses are the building blocks of nothingness. I think the city would like to see you get this finished. So if we give you the extension, it's only going to be till May 1st of next year.
Yeah.
So we'll have to figure out how to get it done so that you're not back in front of us again.
Yeah,
Because we want to see you get it done.
100%. I mean, like when I was talking to Ken and the city manager, it was like, you're going to pour the bike path, right? And so that was the first thing that I did to make sure that that was done. I basically had to beg the contractor in order to get it done. That was the priority. We got that done. I think with scheduling, we're not going to have any issues finishing the rest. And I did a lot of the prep work as soon as the CUA was there. So it's literally just setting up the forms and pouring the concrete.
Awesome. I look forward to your entire project being finished. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo. And just to piggyback on that thought, because that did come to my mind when I heard, the project's done, the project's done, the project's done. Well, then the public amenities on our Hartshorn Peninsula should be done because they were supposed to be done contemporaneously. And so the project's not done. I understand from Mr. Leesman's perspective, the project's done because the money-making aspects of it are done. But it's in the totality. I mean, this was a partnership cooperative use and development agreement. And so it's not done until all aspects of it are done. And that very much includes the public investments and public amenities that were promised as part of the cooperative use and development agreement. So I just want to emphasize it's not done until the public amenities
Until the city says it's done.
So thank you, Commissioner Kilgo. Commissioner Cochin?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Leesma, for coming up here tonight and talking. I've always been told you want to start with a sandwich, so I'm going to start with a sandwich. I appreciate your work in bringing jobs for the event center and the brewery and the other locations to Muskegon. Thank you. I want to ask some other questions. So my first question is, what is your role at AP currently?
Excuse me. My role at AP is similar to the other companies that I own. When I was setting up AP, it was hands-on, borderline micromanagement to make sure that all the vision and details in my head were done, right? I mean, that's very typical. Excuse me, I get this cold. It's very typical when you're starting, you're building something that you have to make sure that everything is exactly right? Because that sets the tone and that sets the structure for how everything runs and how everything grows. Right now, Madam Glick, she basically is sitting on top of everything that goes on there regarding the marina and the campus and things like that. She has a general manager, Captain Chad Blair, which I think is kind of cool that he's a captain. He actually is manage all the employees on a day-to-day basis. He's like the general manager. Aubrey's kind of my right hand. We have a GM over the restaurant, a GM over the event center. The entire leadership team is in place, right? So it doesn't need like my day-to-day. I am not an operations manager. I'm the visionary that comes up with the ideas and gets the right people and the right partners to do it. But just like my other companies, I don't have any day-to-day operational responsibilities. I find the people, I put them in charge, I trust them. Mm-hmm. So I'm more like the owner / person who gets to deal with the distilled version of problems that nobody else can solve, but that doesn't happen very often.
Okay, so what would you say Miss Glick's role in tonight's meeting would be?
So Miss Glick was going to come here and, basically go over her letter that she sent. But a lot of these questions tonight are very focused around, like my efforts historically, like with building and with Eagle and wetlands and things like that. Aubrey helped me build everything. She was right by my side when we were doing that, so she's in the best possible position to kind of maintain the trajectory. But a lot of these items that have been asked about were, something that I was sitting closest in front of when they were happening.
Okay. What was your response to the May 2025 letter?
My response to the May 2025 letter was to call Redline and ask them to come in and do the grade prep as absolutely as fast as they could. I don't think they got out there for 45 days. And then, frankly, it was kind of bouncing the ball back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with MZH as to when they could actually form up the concrete. So I did try to mobilize, and I think Redline was doing that around the same time that they were preparing our road base for the condo building, so it was easy for them to slide over. And that's what happened with MZH too. They were pouring the parking lot, and then they were able to come over real quick and do that, but they were scheduled for another job and had to leave. So trying to grab contractors when they were there already working was kind of the pivot point that I worked off of.
Okay, so you scrambled to get contractors in order to meet the 3 requirements that the commission and the city manager and the legal team had set out, which was the completion of the bike path, the completion of the East Basin Park, and completion of the parking lot for the East Basin Park.
Yeah, so getting the bike path done, getting the parking lot done for Hartshorn, getting the bike path done for Hartshorn. I mean, frankly, I asked repeatedly over and over and over, I got to get these estimates for the parking lot and the bike path. I still don't have them. I have the ability to do all the calculations as to how many cubic yards we're going to need for a 5-inch thick parking lot and what are the dimensions, and it's $165 a yard from high grade, and I can do that rough math in my head, so I'm pretty confident in what those numbers will be. But these guys are hard to get a hold of. Anybody that's building houses or things like that, it's hard to get a hold of contractors. Too many people got an IT and kind of walked away from blue collar jobs, but I mean, frankly, they're fantastic jobs. They're really a great opportunity for young people.
So
I just wish there was more of them.
Given that you have already reached out to contractors in regards to these 3 items and you completed the bike path, is it my understanding that you do not have a timeline from those contractors on when this could be completed for the November 1st deadline?
No, I don't, right? I mean, they got off of my job and they went straight to another job. In fact, MZH, who normally does our concrete formwork and finishing, they couldn't get at it at all. And they had a competitor who had a job cancel at the last minute, and they swung over for a week, and then they had to go to the next one.
Okay, so I think you can see my concern.
Yeah.
Given we gave notice in May that this needs to be done in November, and basically we're doing the flip-flop of that right now. That it needs to be, we're giving notice in November that it could potentially need to be done in May, but we don't have deadlines yet for the things that were supposed to be done in November. Do you see my concern there?
I mean, yeah, I totally see your concern. I think this is kind of an overall theme that is just the reality of when you have other companies that you're dependent on. I mean, if they can't get out, they can't get out. I mean, it's, what do you say, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I prefer to use the same contractors again over and over again because I build my relationships based on trust, and it takes a lot of time to go out and find new people all the time. So, when they say, I know they can do a great job, when they say that they're busy, I kind of shrug my shoulders. But I mean, MZH, I think, told me that they would be there. I think I actually mentioned this to the city manager. I'm like, they're coming out next week. And then, not this week, it's going to be the next week, again and again and again and again. It's just, what do you do?
And I definitely can understand the financial constraints given the letter that was published from the independent bank.
Yep.
But I kind of wonder what your plan is to get these contractors to make sure that you can meet that deadline in May, as Commissioner Kilgo had expressed concern for.
Right.
I would love to see a written plan sent to maybe the city manager or to the commission, so that we can see, deadlines that need to be met in order to, consider going forward. The other question I wanted to ask you about was kind of already answered by Mr. Mayor and Commissioner Kilgo when you were talking about the project being done.
Yeah.
And I can understand how you might want to compartmentalize it, like, oh yeah, these are the things that I need to get done on AP, so the project is done. But when discussing things with the public, and this would also go to Ms. Glick as well, you might want to refrain from saying that the project is done, because the agreement states that these other things need to be done, and it is not done.
Yeah. I guess I should correct myself a little bit, because even like AP is not totally done. Like, we still got to do landscaping, and we still got to, do some things like that. I mean, in my mind, we've kind of, we're at close to the top of the mountain, but yes, you are correct. There's still going to be things that have to be attended to. Admittedly, right, as soon as I had the ability to perform improvements on the cooperative use agreement, I did, right, because it was something I could do right now. But when we started the construction, it was about getting things done as quickly as possible in order to get revenue going behind the project, to start supporting things like debt service and spending 6 weeks training employees. The complexity of something like this is crazy. But yes, you are correct. There are still things to do at Hartshorn, but also at AP, right? I mean, you just try knocking them off as fast as you can. But yes, you are correct.
And staying in communication, I think is important to make sure that we know what's going on when things like the docks being repaired.
Yeah.
I think that's our park. That kind of stuff does need to be communicated.
I think I've done a poor job of that. I think what I really should have done is that I should have hired somebody specifically to kind of act as a liaison to some of our critical players. I don't think anybody ever accused me of being super great when it comes to like that, communicating.
Yeah,
right?
and my assumption of everything has been that has been Ms. Glick's role now. And so I would love to hear more from Ms. Glick as well about, the projects and things that are going on down there at AP. Not to disparage the work that you have done and the knowledge that you have prior to Ms. Glick, but since she's in that role of communicating what's happening, I do have questions for her as well.
Let's speak to her now.
In just a second. I will finish my sandwich and say that I appreciate the way that you communicate with the commissioners in a kind way. So thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Vice Mayor St. Clair, do you have anything for Mr. Leedsma at this time?
No.
All right. Commissioner Gorman, do you have anything for Mr. Leedsma at this time? All right, thank you. All right, we do have a commissioner that wishes to hear from Ms. Glick. If you'd kindly come to the podium and introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Aubrey Glick.
Good evening. Commissioner Cochin.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Glick. Mr. Leedsma had said that you had something prepared you wanted to read to us.
It's more or less going off of the letter that I had sent back a few weeks ago to city manager for that. So we've just run into some financial hurdles, delays, going off of what Ryan said, and basically we're working together to get those things resolved. Obviously, the city's always been a great partner with us, and we greatly appreciate that, and we talk highly about that, especially with our employees too, especially at our Dry Marina Fork Drop area. So in order to get these things done, we are needing an extension. May gives us time, as we are in our haul out season right now. We're in the thick of that, and there's a lot of traffic going on with people dropping off boats for winter storage and putting things away for the winter. So by having this time gives us the opportunity to have a plan that I'd be happy to provide to all the commissioners and follow through with this. And I know from working with Ryan and Emily, we're able to get this done the right way and not have something rushed in that could be done that needs to go back and have maintenance and repairs done to it in the upcoming future. So with the contracting of winter and, we've seen as some of our concrete on site has had to be repaired just from the weathering and machinery being run on it and things like that. So I know by having this May 1 date, it would give us this time frame to adequately do it properly.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. The question I had for you is in regards to some things that I've heard from constituents and people around the town. They reference the in and out service operation and the flaggers. Do you know what happened there?
So we initially, obviously, as Jay has said, when you're kind of theorizing these developments, you're kind of thinking the grand scheme, the perfect plan, what would always work. And this past summer, it was just busier. We had more people out there on the fork drop, more people coming to get their boats, to drop them off, a lot of backflow, traffic along with the bike path too. But we do have the capability of seeing from side to side with that. Yes, I do know there has been several posts. Muskegon Informed is a lot of people's favorite place. So I'm just trying to be transparent with this, and we're working with our officials, and we are working with the city manager and the mayor. We've had people come out. We've had demonstrations shown where we can effectively have our labor. I have budgets that I have to meet, and so there's things that I'm obviously not trying to compromise on safety at all. That's always at the forefront of my mind, especially for the community and our customers. But we were able to show an example of that we can have people crossing it and, making sure that we have clear view of that. And we do have 2 people there during the busier days, 3 people on weekends. So we do have people there that are watching. There are situations where, let's say, a Tuesday morning when we're hauling out boats, it's not as busy as what it is on a Saturday afternoon. So we're able to kind of do the ebbs and flows of these things. It would be kind of an anomaly to have somebody staffed there when we only have 1 launch a day. It's something that's right now we don't have on there. So it's being able to show that there's a safety precaution in place. We're looking at it. We have our guys checking constantly. Safety is always going to be at the forefront of that. So by showing that we can run these operations properly with having 1 person there, maybe the driver operating it. And don't get me wrong, we're working on it and we're always willing to make things better. But as of right now, we were able to see that we could operate it that way.
I'm going to have further conversations with the city manager in regards to that, but I'm going to tell you, I do not feel comfortable having 1 person there driving a forklift, because I don't know if you've ever walked with a bunch of boxes stacked up, much like the forklift carrying a boat, but you can't see. So that gives me a lot of concern. And I appreciate you mentioning that you'll be in communication with us in regards to
Absolutely.
the steps for, if this goes forward and in giving you guys until May to get this done. And so I want to make sure that I share that with you.
And I'm a phone call away. I will talk to anybody about this. I will always figure out a way of doing things better. I'm always up for things like just learning of different ways of going it. It's a collaborative environment. That's what the Cooperative Use Agreements Foundation is. So I'm absolutely willing to hear the concerns and show you the operational side of it. It's definitely something that I've always thought of, but when I see this, this is kind of a sidetracked of the conversation, but I do feel that this is something that safety is always a concern for me, and we're going to always make sure that's at the forefront.
Yeah, the safety definitely ties into this, because we're considering giving graces to the company, which I don't feel are due. So all of it goes into this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Additionally, Mr. Leetsma had mentioned that there were purchases of sinks and toilets for the bathrooms. Can you speak to what happened to those?
So I know that was a prior communicational thing that happened between the city and Adelaide Point. It was prior to my promotional side of that.
Mr.
I'll
Manager,
handle
will
that
Can you
one.
answer that? Okay, thank you.
The city declined to accept the equipment,
the fixtures.
the fixtures. We'll leave it at that.
Okay,
Yeah.
They were not. Yes.
all right,
They were not acceptable.
Yeah.
I see, okay.
Specifically, they were outside of our purchasing policy. And because there was an expectation of reimbursement and it wasn't done within the purchasing policy, which requires notification and approval above a certain threshold for me, and then if it's above my threshold of the commission. And so we declined to participate at that point.
I see. So these were purchased by Adelaide Point. What happened to those?
Ryan can speak further to that.
Yeah, they're sitting on a third level rack over at Anderson Plumbing.
So they were returned?
They were custom made for that bathroom building. I can't return them.
I see, okay. Thank you for that, I appreciate that.
I want to make one comment about the forklift thing that you were talking about. So we brought over Dan Vanderhyde and city manager to actually show how it runs. The original renderings showed a forklift with a boat directly in front of the driver. The forklift that we have, it actually lifts the boat above the driver. That's generally how it's run. And there's completely unobstructed views, the same as human vision. And you're actually only about a couple of feet away from the front of it. So there is incredible visibility when you're operating it. So there aren't any obstructions. So.
I appreciate that, thank you. I don't have any more questions for Ms. Glick, no.
Thank you, Mr. Cochin. Commissioners, anyone have questions for Ms. Glick? Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, Ms. Glick, I do have one question.
Yes.
We heard from Mr. Leesman earlier that once this letter was received, that prep work began in short order. Can you, in your role, which I believe you end up assuming the CEO position
Correct.
shortly thereafter,
Yes.
can you speak to, has there been engineering completed for the park-like improvements at Hartshorn Peninsula? Do you have that engineering?
I know that we've been in talks with our concrete providers, and no.
There's no engineering to do. It's just the dimensions.
No site plan with technical specifications of, where a trail's going to go, where, the configurations of the parking lot or
It's
anything
running
like that?
off of the PUD. So the contractor has the ability to basically look at the PUD and they can measure out the dimensions and they can figure out where it's going to go. It's the same thing with the parking. Excuse me. You don't necessarily need to pay somebody $10 or $15 or $20,000 to draw it up when you already have the dimensions and the location clearly shown on the PUD.
So what deviates from that is what we heard from Mr. Manager earlier in terms of the our Parks and Recreation Master Plan for Hartshorn relative to the plan unit development and how they deviated, and that there was an agreement as to what would go forward with regard to the park-like improvements. So the PUD itself would not necessarily be the guiding document for those improvements in this scenario.
That was what we were instructed to do, is to follow the PUD strictly.
Would you like to weigh in on that, Mr.
Disagree
Manager?
with that, Ryan. The conversation that Kyle and Dan and, Director Karczewski, Director Vanderhyde, and I had with you out at the site was that we were to be following the development agreement or the the master plan that had been put together for Hartshorn Park, which was different from the PUD. And that was one of the reasons that we were lessening the requirements on Adelaide Point for those improvements, because we wanted those improvements done, and we didn't feel it was fair necessarily to require you to do improvements that had not originally been part of your program. And that the parking lot area and the trail out up the center of the peninsula would be the improvements that you would do, and those did differ somewhat from what the PUD requirement was. And we were talking about needing permitting and okays from Eagle if there was to be any changes on how that would interfere with wetland areas along the interface of the peninsula into the basin and things of that nature. So there would need to be some level of planning involved there, and that was the discussion that we had when you asked us to come out and have that conversation about what could be possible there.
Right. So I could do the PUD if you want me to do the new updated plan. We can do that too. I've received very, very stern direction from zoning and planning that I have to follow the PUD 100%. So I personally think that there's some opportunities to improve, but I take my direction from the city. So maybe just clarifying what is specifically to be followed with everybody on the same page is, then we'll do that. There's no interfacing with the trail or with the parking lot into regulated wetlands at all. It's all upland. There isn't a permit that you need to get from Eagle in order to install a parking lot above ordinary high water.
Thank you, Mr. Leesma. And I wonder if there may be some wires crossed in terms of what is required as part of the PUD and what is expected with regard to the park-like improvements at Hartshorn relative to our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, because they're outside of the minimum 3 requirements that we referenced in the letter of May of 2025. There are numerous other elements of the PUD that are, required, with street lights, bollard lights, pedestrian lights, landscaping, plantings, streets, and the like. I don't see sidewalks mentioned here, but perhaps that's under public improvements, or that's just considered part of streets. But we are lacking sidewalks connecting AP to Western Avenue, which is really important for ease of access to our neighbors, being able to enjoy that property, because there's considerable public access there. So with regard to the Hartshorn improvements, though, I think we need to get clarity on that. Whether there's a misunderstanding of what's expected, I definitely think there needs to be clarity on what we expect as a city. And if we were to move forward with this extension, I would very much like to see that cemented and presented by December 1st. So we've got a December 1st timeline saying we need to get the surveys done, we need to get the deeds set up for with the register of deeds, with who owns what, and so on and so forth. That if we were to move forward with this, I would like to also see by December 1st a firm understanding of what these improvements are going to be at Hartshorn, and then because I presume you're operating from the mentality that you're going to continue owning and operating Adelaide Point. That is, it's not going to necessarily get a receiver. You're going to prevail. You're going to be moving forward with this development. And as such, I would welcome that mentality of here is our plan, under the presumption that I'm going to continue operating this, and AP is going to be a going concern. But here is the plan to meet that timeline. So we heard earlier that it's roughly $30,000 altogether, and you can move forward with that. We also heard that losing the cooperative use development agreement can essentially be a catalyst for a cascading event that would be catastrophic.
Yep.
And so if that were the case, I would think that more emphasis and urgency would be put on the minimum requirements that we spelled out in that letter to be met by the November 1st deadline for concern of losing that cooperative use agreement. And so if it is our city manager's professional opinion and recommendation to approve this extension, I'm inclined to support him in that regard. I would like to see firm expectations and understanding of what parkway improvements are obligated and the expected timeline for that. But I do want to emphasize this, because it was mentioned both by yourself as well as Mr. Manager earlier, the significant negative potential catastrophic effects of losing the cooperative use and development agreement. From your perspective, I think it'd be far worse than from our situation, because on our side, it's us having to foot the bill for some of these public improvements and amenities that were contemplated being provided by virtue of the cooperative use and development agreement. I just wanted to be known, assuming I'm still in this position come next spring, I'm not afraid to terminate the cooperative use and development agreement. If the parties to that are not living up to its obligations, that is our leverage. And we cannot give endless grace, endless extensions. And this is essentially the first extension. So I'm not, we've been giving grace, but this is technically the first extension based upon being noticed by letter. You have to get it by this deadline. I just wanted to be known that I'm not afraid of moving forward and terminating the cooperative use and development agreement. Because if we are going to say, hey, we're too afraid to exercise that option, then we're going to be at a standstill. Mm-hmm. And so I just want to be known that I would support, if needed, the termination of the cooperative use and development agreement. But at this time, I'm inclined to support the city manager. If it is his professional opinion and recommendation to move forward with this extension as presented, with the caveat of I'd like to see a plan of what is expected, and both sides understanding and committing to what's expected for Hartshorn Peninsula, and a plan for how that's going to be delivered by December 1st, along with the other added stipulations that Mr. Manager added. Commissioner Kilgo.
Thank you. Mr. Leisman, for me, it's as easy as like asking you and Ms. Glick, would you all be willing to, for clarity, because it does sound like some wires are crossed with, okay, is it the PUD, is it this plan, that plan? Would you all be willing to sit down with city staff to get clarity? Because maybe when the conversation was had with the manager and Ryan, you weren't there, or like with everyone who's important from your side, sit down with the people who's important from the city so we can have clarity. So then there can't be, well, I thought it was this one, as opposed to I thought it was this one.
I've seen two plans. One is the PUD, and one is the Hartshorn Master Plan, and just tell us which one you want. I mean, I don't know if it's a meeting necessarily, it's just tell us what you want.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo. Commissioner Cochin.
Yes, this isn't necessarily a question, but to kind of piggyback on Commissioner Kilgo and to what you were saying, I would like to see that in writing as well, because a lot of times things get missed in the minutes. And then they get approved, and so then we don't have clear things to go back on. And I think it would help Mr. Leitsma and Ms. Glick, as well as the city commission and our city, to be able to see what was said, what is the plan, what needs to be done, and the timeline for that.
So I would recommend that the motion be amended to state that a deadline of December 1st is put in place to receive detailed plans from the developer.
I can tell you it will be damn near impossible to get West Shore Engineering or Excel or somebody else to draw that up in that amount of time. The backlog on an engineer is pretty extensive right now. If you guys can get me the plan that you want, and maybe that's a good thing of this getting delayed a little bit, because we thought we were doing the PUD, and it seems like that there's a desire to follow the new master plan. So I guess there's a benefit to this happening. Tell us which one you want. We will make sure that it's implemented as drawn. And yeah, that's it. We'll get people on the schedule for March 15. Tell them early and get it done.
So I don't necessarily, although I would appreciate and welcome something that is a detailed site plan with more technical specifications, I think for virtue of December 1st, what is critical is having in writing what the expectations are in terms of the parkland improvements.
The drawing.
No, there's a trail going down the center. There's kayak launch here. There's a fishing platform here. There's a hardened, a fishing area with a shelter. There's a parking lot done. So like in writing specifically, not just looking at a map. I think having in writing what these public improvements are at Hartshorn Peninsula, and then what I would welcome if as you say you cannot get them to develop the map or the image, the survey and the like of it by December 1st, having that under contract where some indications like it's forthcoming, because as you're saying it will take so long to get it done. It would be reassuring to see that it's underway in terms of we've solicited proposals, or we've got a contract, with X, Y, and Z to do this work, because that's what we need to see, and that's what our community needs to see is reassurance that this will get done.
You have my commitment for that. We just put them on the schedule for March 15, and here's the plan, and let them do it.
Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I want you both to know that, I hear you. I take everything in consideration when business owners, developers, constituents, all of them come to the podium. But I'm hearing, I heard earlier that the issue with getting contractors and things like that. What's to say that if we do extend this, you still have that same issue or that problem getting the contractors? So that gives me pause right there.
That's a great question. So typically what happens with earthwork contractors that have a limited season, terrible, sorry, because they can't work in the winter, they actually build their schedules starting in the spring and going all the way through to the fall again.
Yep.
So like if you go to an excavator in February and say, hey, can you put in all my roads? They just laugh at you. Same thing with concrete, because they have a very limited season. So the time to go to the concrete contractor is now and say, I want to be on your first open week as soon as the weather breaks. That's actually pretty easy to do because they're still building their schedules for the next construction season.
From that logic, I could see why you would ask for an extension to get those projects done. As stated by the mayors, other commissioners, it would have been nice to have something in writing to present to the commission today, knowing that what's at jeopardy here. And again, I just kind of feel that even though you're here, you kind of came unprepared, nothing to present to something more tangible for us to look at. Say, well, hey, we're looking at doing this. Is this what we've done? Just more a thought out, manageable process. And I think it's just, planning 101 for me, just basic things. You got to do this. You have to do this. This isn't done. This is where we are. I understand, it's a huge project, major project, and I couldn't even imagine taking on a project like that, and the headaches and things that you deal with, and then investors. From that point of view, again, it gives me pause, Mr. Leesma. Can you really finish this project? And that's where I'm at right now.
Well, I mean, like I said, 95+% of the whole project is done. Yes, I understand that there's park-like improvements to be made. We have made improvements to it so far, but pouring a bike path and pouring a parking lot's pretty damn simple.
Yeah, but why isn't it done though? I mean, that's
mostly because of contractor issues.
Yeah.
Getting availability when you're already in the construction season. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's like very simple. Which drawing do you want us to follow? Right? I get them on the schedule. I got a really good idea as to what it's going to cost already. Right? and we just do it.
Okay, and just for city manager, okay, just for clarity, I know we talked about it, you mentioned it, y'all have had that discussion. Which plan is, Adeline Point supposed to follow, the master plan for the project, or?
So, and staff and I are trying to clarify that a little bit. It's both.
Yeah, it was kind of a combination, is my understanding.
It's a combination
That
of
you guys
both.
had agreed to a combination.
Yeah, and so what we were talking about when, what I was referencing when Director Vanderhyde and Director Karcheski and I met with him in July, was the fact that we were requiring, and also as was noted in the letter, we were requiring less improvements as per the PUD because the PUD improvements were slightly conflicting with the master plan. And so the two consistent factors between the master plan and the PUD were the parking lot and the trail out to the end of the peninsula, and not quite to the end of the peninsula. So, so both are correct. But what I was referring to was when we were having the conversation, I was referring to the fact that we weren't requiring him to do as many improvements as was originally agreed to in the PUD by the developer because of the changes to the rec master plan or the Hartshorn master plan. So,
yeah. And so I think that's why it reinforces the necessity for we to have in writing by December 1st what the agreed expectations from both sides are for those improvements. And it was my understanding that it was a combination of the PUD and the Hartshorn master plan. And so I would like to see that spelled out in writing and understanding, because even hearing now that, oh, it's only about $30,000, that suggests to me not in alignment with what our expectations are. Certainly not what my expectations are, because from what I understood from the combination of the PUD and the master plan, I cannot imagine costs only $30,000. And so I think that needs to have firm understanding, and that needs to be put in writing. And I do think that needs to be a stipulation of this extension that is brought back to us and presented by December 1st.
So,
is there, Commissioner Gorman, I already asked you, Vice Mayor St. Clair. I think everyone else has had ample opportunity to ask questions and follow up. I'm going to go to you, Commissioner Gorman, and then to the city manager before we wrap up. Okay, Mr. Manager.
So the primary reason I'm bringing this forward for consideration is because of the legal proceedings that are in place, and I don't want to complicate those legal proceedings further. I think we'd be having a very different discussion, and I would be having a very different discussion with the developer if that wasn't in place. That's the primary driver here, not making those things more complicated.
Okay. So earlier you suggested a modification to the motion. Can you restate that, or what you think is the best? Restate your recommendation.
So it was something
with that modification.
It was something to the effect of that the commission would like to requires a timeline of December 1st to have communication in writing from the developer on what will be done with the park-like improvements on Hartshorn Peninsula, or something to that effect.
Okay. So,
or if that could just be reflected in the minutes.
What he said, can I ask Commissioner German and Kilgo for a friendly amendment based upon what Mr. Manager just shared? Mr. Schreier?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
So based upon what we just heard from Mr. Manager, can I ask Commissioner German and Commissioner Kilgo to accept that as a friendly amendment?
Certainly.
My question would be, okay, this amendment would be extending it till December 1st, right?
It's your original motion
Right,
with
right.
the caveat of there needs to be in writing what
detailed
needs
plan.
what needs to happen.
Right.
So, agree. Clearly understood specificity of which parkland improvements are obligated to happen by this new deadline of May 1st.
Now, but it won't carry over to the extension of next year, 2026, right?
If they meet that December 1st stipulation, then yes, the extension would continue to May 1st. If that stipulation is not met by December 1st, then that's where we have a decision to make about to proceed.
Okay, state that one more time, Mayor.
So what's being asked here, so we already have the additional stipulation that by December 1st, the survey and the registering of the properties and whatnot must be done by December 1st. There's an added stipulation of requiring in writing the specific park-like improvements to be made by May 1st.
Point of order real quick. Are we expecting this to be presented to the city commission?
It would, it wouldn't necessarily be submitted to the city commission for approval. It would be a, did he meet this deadline or not?
I see, okay.
And it would be shared with the city
Yes.
commission.
All right, thank you.
Point of
Commissioner
order,
Kilgo.
if, do you have to have his answer first?
I'm sorry?
Do you have to have Commissioner German's answer first?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
as the maker
okay.
of the motion.
Now, my question would be also that if we didn't amend it, and if we tabled it and come back, would
I
that be an
really would
option?
not want to
Okay.
table
Yeah,
this.
okay, I'm just throwing.
We've already spent
Yeah, yeah.
Plenty of time discussing
Yeah,
this tonight.
Yeah, I'm like.
And I guess if the answer is no, it's not a friendly amendment, that doesn't stop somebody from making.
Anyone
that
can amend the
Yeah,
motion.
yeah.
Amend the motion.
Yeah.
The amendment will simply.
So
vote
if you're
on it
uncomfortable
first.
making
Yeah.
accepting it as a friendly amendment,
Yeah,
And given
and
the hesitancy with Commissioner German, I'm wondering if that may be a better course.
yeah,
right from the
yeah,
get-go.
because I wanted to go back to the city
Okay.
manager
Can-
also. Go ahead, Mayor.
I was going to ask Mr. Manager to, just for the record and clear understanding, if you could restate the expected amendment or suggested amendment to go along with his original recommendation, so that any member of the commission may choose to move to amend as stipulated.
Hold on, I'm rewriting it. The developer must, by December 1st, 2025, submit to the city a detailed plan of what park-like improvements will be done at the Hartshorn Peninsula.
And that's the amendment if I choose
That would either
to.
be the friendly amendment or the
It'll have
separate.
to
We're
be
just
a
going to do
formal,
separate.
yeah.
Any commissioner
Okay,
wish
it has
to
to-
make a
okay, it
motion
has
to
to be a
amend the
formal,
motion to reflect that?
So moved.
No, no.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor St. Clair. Do I have support?
Support.
All right. We have a motion to amend by Vice Mayor St. Clair, supported by Commissioner Gorman.
Discussion?
I'm going to go to Vice Mayor St. Clair, then Commissioner Gorman first.
Thank
Vice Mayor
you.
St. Clair, do you have anything to speak on your motion?
Only that it makes sense to make the amendment so that we have clear understanding of what it is that we are requesting of the developer and that it aligns with what we are expecting.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gorman?
Nope, no discussion.
No? All right, thank you. Commissioner Kilgo?
It's already in writing, in my opinion. I asked a few minutes ago if the developer and the city could sit down and just say, here's what we need. It doesn't matter if we add in and they write it to us or not, the deadline's still going to be May 1st, 2026. And as you stated, Mr. Mayor, they don't want to miss that deadline because it's probably not going to be good if they miss that deadline. So I don't really think it matters if they put it in writing or not. But I do think for clarification, the city and the developer should sit down to have that clarification. So it doesn't matter to me, put it in writing, not in writing. They know what they have to do. They just maybe need some clarification. And then really it's up to the developer to meet the May 1st deadline. Excuse me.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgo. Any other comments before we vote on the motion to amend?
Commissioner Kilgo, if I might respond. If we get to next May, and if nothing is done, the city is in a very different position with having taken action tonight to say this need to be done by December 1, it was or wasn't, and then based upon that written document, the construction occurred by May 1, and it did or did not, as opposed to we get into this dispute and the dispute then becomes in May, June, or 18 months from now. The developer, think I did what I promised, and city saying, no, you didn't. It's a documentation.
For sure. That's a great point. Thank you for sharing that. That then leads me to think, if the developer puts something on paper and sends it in to us and it's not what we're looking for, then we're still in a back and forth. So maybe we can just have that point to sit down together so that we can get this development done. Like, I'm not on anybody's side here except for the citizens of Muskegon, and I would love to see the project be done. So you're right. If we have it in writing, then it's clear they know and we know their intentions. So thank you for sharing that with me.
And I do think that inherent with this amendment and requiring that to be delivered by December 1st will include a sit down. I can't imagine our staff and the AP team's not going to sit down to discuss this and agree to it and then get it in writing. Commissioner Koshin, do you have something?
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
All
Except
right.
for I couldn't speak
Fine.
to you guys doing it, but I was
Yeah.
just gonna say that needs to happen regardless.
Yeah.
Final comment or question before we go to vote on
Yeah.
the amendment, Commissioner German.
In this amendment, if it's not, requirements are not met by December 1st, then it, cancels?
So at that point in time, there would be another decision point for the commission. If that requirement isn't met, it will be a decision that you guys could say, okay, you've not met the requirements of the CUA, and determine how to proceed from there. So.
And then I think my whole rationale for kind of looking at it from a different perspective now is because of the miscommunication with the PUD and the master plan.
That's why it's critically important that we get we're
Right,
going to ask to deliver by
exactly.
December 1st.
Yeah.
So I'm would like to move forward because we are over 2 hours into this meeting. And we're only on the second item on our consent agenda. So roll call on the motion to amend.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair?
Yes.
All right. The amendment has been adopted. So now we're going to be looking at voting on the underlying or the newly amended motion. So this is the motion that was in our packet, recommended by the city manager, with the caveat that was just added by the commission. Vice Mayor St. Clair?
Thank you. I didn't have any questions that weren't already asked and answered multiple times. But I do want to explain my vote to the public. I know that this is an issue that people have very strong feelings about, and they come by those feelings honestly. I think that, as is the case with many developers, we don't always see eye to eye on how things happen, and I think that in particular, this developer has done a lot of harm to relationships in the community by careless words and by actions that have been taken, whether deliberately or accidentally, the harm has been done, and there are a lot of people that would like to see this whole project burn. I understand that rationale, and I have to ask myself, what is our goal as a community? What is it that we want to achieve? And as I sit and I think about this, I remember those dead buildings out by the mall that got started in the build process, and it got stalled out, and they've sat out there rotting for a decade. You know, I think that people have every right to feel what they feel, and that's okay. And I also know that at the end of the day, nobody wants another corpse on the waterfront. And it is clear to me in this conversation that if we pull the cooperative use agreement, we sentence this project to, if not death, a extreme hardship that will be very hard to move forward on, and I'm not willing to do that out of spite. I'm not willing to do that to make people feel better about getting back at somebody who has made them feel bad. And as I said, I don't want to minimize the feelings that people have, because there have been some really hurtful things that have happened, and people feel what they feel, and they are absolutely entitled to that. But at the end of the day, my concern is that we don't have a dead project in the heart of our downtown, that we don't have a dead project on the waterfront, and that we get our needs met. And part of that, I believe, is by going forward with this, giving the banks and the courts the time to do what it is they need to do. And if Mr. Leetsma and company is able to pull it out, then to give them the time that they need. But I can't, in good conscience, deny this.
Thank you, Vice Mayor St. Clair. And I concur. We have a shared objective to see this project succeed. And I appreciate Mr. Leesma and all his partners for the investments that have been made in this huge undertaking on our waterfront, and the opportunity to create significant more public access, as well as new jobs and commercial activity and recreation and enjoyment of our community. And so I think we all definitely want to see this succeed, one way or the other. And in an ideal world, these park-like improvements would have been made in a more closer contemporaneous fashion with the other developments. Understandably, hiccups have happened. Naturally, prioritization was given to capital generating components of the project versus parkland projects, because it was necessary to have the capital generating aspects to then have the capital to invest in the public amenities. But there's only so much grace that can be given at the same time, and that's why we sent that notice earlier this year, saying we want these things done. Our community expects these things to be done, and we're going to work to ensure that they are done. And here we're being asked to give further grace, and it is, as Vice Mayor St. Clair said, it is reasonable. I support the city manager in his recommendation. I do think it's a reasonable recommendation. And when I say that I'm not afraid to terminate the cooperative use agreement come in the spring, if that's necessary, that's not, and I don't think you were accusing me of being spiteful, but I just want to clarify that that is not born out of spite. That is just simply born out of the fact that it is a leverage point for us, and we cannot be afraid to use that to induce compliance with the expected obligations. And at the same time that I'm not afraid to terminate the cooperative use and development agreement, I'm open under the reasonable circumstances to modify that to support this project and ensure its ongoing viability and long-term success. So I will support the motion on the floor. Commissioner German, final thoughts?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say to the city manager, the way that you handled this agreement and business going back and forth, I think you've done an excellent job. It says something about your leadership and making sure that each commissioner and staff are all on the same page, even though, it might have been some miscommunication along the way. Sometimes that happens. But for the most part of it, I don't think if it wasn't for that, the misunderstanding with the PUD and the master plan, I probably would be looking at this in a different way. And it's not personal business. Vice Mayor said some things about people having feelings, and they all have opinions and feelings. But as I stated before, when developers come in front of this commission, I've sat on this commission quite a few years, and I've seen some things, and things happen. I could say to Mr. Leesma, I commend you for acknowledging your mistakes, and when a man admits to mistakes and some things that happen, I mean that says a lot about character also. So I appreciate that, and that makes it more easier to build relationships and trust and work together. This is like a lifeline for you, and it probably won't be another one from me, to be honest. So just to let you know, I want to see this project completed, and I wish you the best luck on this. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner
Yeah.
German. All right, we're going to go to roll.
Can I?
Commissioner
Yeah,
Cochin.
thank you.
Quickly, please.
Yes, very quick. This is not an easy decision by any means. I heard about this and I was really upset because we had already set a deadline that needs to happen. But I understand that there are things beyond our control that are happening in regards to the receivership that is impacting this decision tonight. And I think that I'm going to echo Commissioner German, Mr. Mayor's sentiments. There will not be another extension from me. So I really hope that we can get everything set in stone and what needs to get done in writing so there's not any confusions, and get plans to meet the deadlines. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. All right, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Yes.
Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgall.
Yes.
Commissioner German.
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman.
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, we have 4 more items from our consent agenda to deliberate and vote on. I just encourage that we be as economical as possible with our questions and comments on these items, because we do have a closed door session after this meeting regarding financial matters. So, all right. Item H, policy for the use and sale of city-owned residential property, an amendment. Commissioner German.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mayor. I move to approve and accept amendment policy for the use and sale of city-owned residential property.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Kilgo. Good evening. Kindly introduce yourself and please report on this item.
Hi, I am Sam Poulos. I am the city's code coordinator. And this item is an amendment to our policy for the use and sale of city-owned residential property, commonly known as the lot sale policy. Some of the changes proposed are changes to purchase price amounts or percentages to determine those amounts, reimbursement amounts, and the removal of a landscaping grant. The changes to the purchase price amounts, we now sell all of our residential vacant lots at 75% of the true cash value. We are proposing to keep that the same for developers that want to build a single-family home. If they add an accessory dwelling unit or do a duplex or small multiplex, we want to charge them 50% of the true cash value for the purchase price. The reimbursement amounts, we are proposing to make a flat 80% if they build a home. And by doing so, we will remove the current design standards, which are categories of reimbursement broken into 20% increments. And those design standards were really developed with form-based code in mind. And they actually work against affordability and attainability because they encourage developers to build more expensive houses. And as the commission knows, we talk about the housing needs assessment study frequently, and that study says that we need more than 160 homes in the 120 to 190 range, $1,000 range. We need more than 400 homes in the 190 to 280 range. So that's always at the front of our mind whenever we do anything in development services in regards to this. So that is purchase price, that's reimbursement changes, development incentives. So basically, we're proposing for the development incentives. Currently, we waive water and sewer connection fees if someone builds 3 or more housing units. We are proposing that if an address is included in our brownfield plan amendment, that's an automatic reduction of those water and sewer connection fees. Or if the address is not included in that, we still would like to stick with the 3 or more housing units built, then we'll waive those fees. The other thing is that would like to remove the landscape incentive under non-buildable lot sales. It talks about a landscaping grant that is not budgeted for nor has been administered in a number of years. I couldn't find the last instance that this was awarded. Outside of that, there are a couple things that I would like to mention. It will not impact the budget. So for the development incentives, our brownfield is overperforming. It's estimated that the TIF will capture $319,000 for this tax year. And we still have an exception that if we have non-buildable lots, we can still sell them to an adjacent neighbor to combine with their property. And then the other things to mention, some of the footnote language was just made consistent with the purchase agreement that we use all the time. It's the important stuff.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Poulos. We're going to go to Commissioner German first.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Poulos. And I heard you say, you answered some of the questions, but with that water and sewage connection discount, what is the usual fee for that for builders that?
I'm not actually sure because all of the builders, with the exception of a few that I've worked with, they all build more than 3 houses. I don't see that fee.
Okay.
Director Vanderhyde would be better suited to answer that question. I'm not sure what the amount is.
It's a lot.
Yeah, I know it's not cheap. Yeah. Because
I don't know what it is.
I know everyone is very happy to have it waived.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to, just at least get an answer. But also, if I heard you correctly, did I hear you say residents can purchase a lot and have it added on to their properties?
Correct. If it's a non-buildable lot, so if there's a lot that doesn't meet our zoning standards for a buildable lot and it's adjacent to their lot,
Okay.
we can offer it to them, combine it to their lot. If there are more than one adjacent property owner that has interest in it, we can divide it amongst however many. I can split a lot 15 different ways, so.
Yeah. Well, and that's great because I've had that question for years. Now, since they've made them buildable lots and you have to build on them within a certain amount of time, I think residents will be happy to hear that. And I may be coming to you because I know quite a few that have an interest. So I have to sit down and talk with you and see if those lots are non-buildable, and I can let my constituents know also.
And I do have a list already identified of those lots. I know.
Oh, great. Could
what-
you
where they
share
are,
that
what
with the
they are.
commissioner? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. But I guess Director Vanderhyde also, you was going to look like.
Just a second.
Go ahead.
Commissioner
man.
Mr. Manager had some
Oh, sorry.
clarification as well.
Director Vanderhyde, you can come up to the podium. Dan will be able to go over what the fees are, but I also want to point out that although they would be waived at the time of connection because it's in the scattered site brownfield, the costs are reimbursable through the brownfield capture back to the water and sewer funds. So those funds do get paid back. It's not that we're foregoing those, but Director Vanderhyde can.
What's the cost?
What the actual costs are on each of those.
3,500 each for water and sewer, so a total of 7,000.
Good gracious. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Not cheap. Okay. No, that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner German. Commissioner Kilgo.
Thank you. Mr. Chair and the rest of the commissioners, from what Commissioner German had just asked, since we've changed our zoning laws, there aren't as many non-buildable lots. We created a lot of buildable lots, so there may be 35 feet of road frontage next to someone's house, and now that's buildable in our city, so it's not going to fall in that unbuildable range. Now that's buildable, so we do want to keep that in mind in telling people that they can just buy the lot next door. The updated will tell us the difference, like what the city does in this new, by adopting this updated ordinance for lot sales. But Ms. Pujols, my question is a really easy one. So for the three or more, those do those have to be adjacent properties? Or if someone was infilling and one was on this street and two were on that street,
They don't have to be adjacent.
as long as in their kind of proposal, they're doing
Just
three or
three or
more?
more housing units.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Roughly the same timeframe. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Gilgo. Commissioners, anything else to ask or add at this time? Okay. My only question is with regard to the landscaping incentive. I understand that it's not been used for a number of years and we don't necessarily have it budgeted, but considering it's a, I don't want to say nominal amount, but a fairly small amount, I think what was $1,000 or $1,500 potentially grant. Yeah, $1,500 potentially up to that. That I guess maybe I'm inclined to keep it there as an option. And if someone does avail himself of that, then we sort it out how we're going to fund it. And because it happens so infrequently, and it hasn't happened for a number of years, that I think it is nice to encourage beautification and landscaping.
I agree. I agree with that, and I was really hoping to find some funding to do our homeowners beautification, which were those $200 Home Depot cards, which essentially worked like this program, but for those, the homeowners didn't have to pony up any money. This, they have to spend $1,500 and then we reimburse them $250. The homeowners beautification, we give them $200 and all we ask is before and after pictures. And we give them a list of, eligible activities. And so I think that is maybe what this has morphed into. I'm not sure. So I tend to favor give them the money. Don't make them spend $1,500. I know a lot of my friends and neighbors don't have $1,500 to spend up front, so.
Although, as Commissioner Kogo just pointed out, we have far fewer unbuildable lots in our city. And this grant is for specifically to when you are acquiring a non-buildable lot, that this landscaping incentive is available to you. That is a pretty high threshold of 1,500. We can always reduce the threshold, but but I'm not going to belabor this, and I will support the recommendation as presented, with the caveat that I'm still interested in, potentially providing resources in a reasonable manner for beautification. All right. If there's no, yes, Commissioner
Just
German,
one other
final thoughts or question.
Okay, you mentioned the $200 cards for residents, and I know residents that had taken advantage of that. Are you saying that will be available?
If someone tells me there's money for it,
Okay.
we will
It's a
happily
program.
administer that.
Okay.
Right.
And if it happens, could you let the commission know as well?
But it's
If there's funding or whatever.
yeah.
Yes,
So that's
sir.
a separate program, not
Yeah.
Contemplated or part of this policy
Right.
change.
Yeah.
And something that is
Yeah.
budgeted by the commission.
Right.
So if there's nothing else, thank you, Commissioner German.
Yeah.
If there's nothing else, roll call, please.
Commissioner Kilgo,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cochin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right. Oh, I think I misspoke earlier when I said there was only 4 items left, because there's. Oh no, there's 3 items left. Ooh-wee. All right, here we go. Concession agreement, Smith Ryerson vending machine, Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I move to authorize staff to enter into an agreement with Threes Company LLC for a concession service at Smith Ryerson Park.
Support.
All right, we got a motion by Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Cochin. Good evening. Kindly introduce yourself and please report out on this item.
Yeah.
You do not have to talk as fast as I am right now, but please report out on this item.
Yeah, hi. I am Kyle Krachewski, Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of Muskegon. This is a concession application for a resident who reached out to me, who had said she had heard concerns from fellow residents that there was not any vending options at Smith Ryerson Park, specifically in the Sim Race Center. So I've been going back with her the past couple weeks, about a month or so, to discuss and hear her proposal. And so she is ready to move forward with this agreement and to hopefully install a vending machine at the park for public use.
Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Director. Okay, just kind of curious, and this is in the Jackson Hill neighborhood.
Yes.
That I oversee. What's going to be in the vending machine? Would that be up to the vendor, or are there certain items that they're looking for?
Yeah, I have given her some. We haven't had discussions about it. It was mainly snacks, and I have asked her to have healthy options, and she will have things like peanuts and sun chips that are lower fat snacks. But it's what people consume, which for the large majority of us
Right.
is junk food. So yeah, there will be some junk food there, but it's close. It's going to be right in the park, and I guess instead of going and getting a ride to the local gas station, they'll get chips and a candy bar at the Simray Center instead of down the store.
Yeah, well, they are utilizing that space quite a bit, so that
Yeah.
would definitely be a great addition to have some snacks and a vending machine at that location. So yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner German.
Yep.
Commissioner Cochin.
Oh,
As a supporter of the motion,
yes.
do you have anything to ask or add?
I was like, why are you calling on me? So no, I don't. I think that having some concessions over there is a good idea. So, not opposed.
Thank you, Commissioner Cochin. Any other? Commissioner Kilgo.
Yeah, I do have one question. So their agreement is for $250 annually, 5% gross receipts. Is there a timeline on the contract between them and the city? For instance, first year, we see that it's not gonna generate the amount of money, and that particular resident doesn't want to be on the hook for the money. Is there a timeline for the contract?
In the concession policy, it says that it's up to staff to discuss the terms of this. So this would be in October 1 to September 30, like a full fiscal year for her business, would be the timeline, because it wouldn't be that fair to her if we took the 250 and then all of a sudden, by our fiscal year or by 2026, we say, okay, time for a new agreement. So that's up to our discretion, and that was the decision we're going to make with that.
So it'll be a one-year term effective October 1st or maybe November 1st or whatever you end up choosing. It's a one-year time.
Yes.
One-year contract. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, commissioners? All right. I would be interested, and you don't necessarily need to share this right now, given the length of this meeting, but I would be interested in understanding, and maybe you have, as part of this process, uncovered some historical perspective on this, because I'd be interested in understanding where we've had vending machines in the past throughout our park system, and if there is a consideration of having more of them throughout our park system. Because as I understand, many, many years ago, we had a lot more vending machines. And so if you have a quick answer, you can share right now. If you want to, report findings back to the commission at some point in the future, I would welcome that. I would just like to understand, history around vending machines in our park system.
I'll keep it quick. Other cities I've worked at, vending machines cost a lot more for the city. This is an easier way and cheaper way for us. Usually, they're not, at no loss to us. So this is a more positive vending machine contract, having it go through the concession agreement. At first, she had sent me a proposal, with costs for us, but what we preferred was sticking to the concession policy, and I think that works out. But I can also follow up when I hear more about the history.
That's good, good context and perspective, and this could end up being perhaps a pilot of a sort.
Yeah.
See if it's something that we want to encourage and embrace more of in some fashion. So, all right, unless there's anything else, roll call, please.
Commissioner German.
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman. Yes. Commissioner Cochin.
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Yes.
Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Karczewski. All right. Next up, item M, resolution for housing tax exemption for 4 properties LLC for the addresses of 609, 619, and 629 Amity. Commissioner Kilgo.
Motion to approve the resolution for housing tax exemption as presented and to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Kilgo, supported by Vice Mayor St. Clair. Good evening. Kindly introduce yourself and please report out on this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Jake Ekholm. I'm the Director of Development Services for the City of Muskegon.
So this is similar, nearly identical to several other recent contracts for housing tax exemption and restrictive covenants associated items that we've approved. This one in particular is for 8 total units, so it would be 3 duplexes and 2 ADUs. And they are the same format at the same price points as several of the other small-scale pilots for incremental developers that we've done in recent months. The 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom units are going to rent between $1,400 and $1,500. Those are the ground floor and second level of the duplex. The 1-bedroom, 1-bath ADU is scheduled for $785. To put that in sort of context for the current housing market, the latest, the roughly 570 square foot, one bed, 1-bath apartments at Glen Oaks are renting in the high 8s, and then the 2-bedroom, 1-bathrooms are renting for around $1,500, which for those of us that grew up here and most people at least knew somebody who lived in Glen Oaks, I think those numbers need to be heard because it kind of puts into context where the housing market is. And so these are going to be targeted for folks under 120% AMI. I know the developers specifically try to seek folks around 80% AMI because they're kind of in that working wage range that fits these rent rates without being considered house burden. So, yeah, pretty similar project to some of the other ones we've approved. One difference is that the central duplex will not feature an ADU the same way as the other ones have because they're going to have collective parking and backyard space right there. And so there will be ADU on either side and then 3 duplexes in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director Echolm. Commissioner Kogo.
Thank you. So my reason for pulling this one, just when I looked at the wording, it looked a little bit different than some of the other ones that we've done. And the workforce housing wording on the resolution, I don't know if Madam Clerk wants to pull it up or not, but the workforce housing part of it is where I have a few questions. So this says that the overall tax exemption at the bottom, it's only for 15 years. But I'm trying to find what line it was on, but it said for the life of workforce housing that they would get the MISHTA part of it, like the rent caps and stuff like that. Where does the city or doesn't the city determine workforce part of it? Or is workforce just a word for saying, hey, the city's constructing some of that middle or lower to middle income housing?
Sure. Yeah, those are good questions. So first and foremost, concerning the term, this pilot provision and by state statute is dictated to be a term of 15 years and 10% of the gross shelter rent. So it's different than some of our larger format multifamily pilots that we've looked at for LIHTC, where we can set policies or negotiate those pilot rates. This one is laid out in the statute that it shall be for 15 years of affordability and it shall be 10% of the collected rents. As to the workforce housing verbiage, that's been on these resolutions because that is the term in the statute that the state specifically put in there in the amendment to the MISHTA Act, targeting workforce housing between 80 and 120% AMI. So borrowing their definition in that case.
And then the 80 to 100% AMI will just flow with MISHTA's rates per year when they release their list every year.
Yep, so it's 80 to 120% AMI, and MISHTA releases by county every year control rents and threshold incomes. Yeah.
Okay.
Usually in May of every year.
And all of the 8 units will be privy to that 80 to 120 mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kyogo. Vice Mayor St. Clair, anything to ask or add? No. All right. Commissioners, anything else to ask or add? Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Director Echo. And when we talking about the 80% AMI to 120, you say, and as Commissioner Kilgo stated, this is more or less like the missing middle target, I should say. So people making anywhere from about 56,000 to 80,000, somewhere in
Or
that price range?
it depends on the household size, and so MSHDA will release tables that include number of persons in household, number of bedrooms, and so you basically correlate the number of people that are on the lease application with the bedroom count, and that establishes the rent. But yeah, so as an example, a single person at 120% AMI for Muskegon County, they're making 50-something and technically could go in here, but a family could be making, to your point, high 70s and go in. So there is no like one set number. It depends on the household size and the bedroom count of the unit.
Right, right. Because, I get the question all the time, well, people can't afford these houses or these apartments. We know the situation with the economy. People are getting laid off at the federal level, and it may trickle down within, state and local, and the hardship that goes on. Now, Alan Edwards' name was in the description. They're the one that's going to do this project, right?
No, Alan Edwin is another pilot development that we've already approved, and so similar to Alan Edwin.
Okay.
This is the same statute, the same incentive. A key difference, Alan Edwin is doing all single-family product, and they're all 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom, and so they're designed for larger households. Whereas this product that's been introduced by several smaller incremental developers, Alan Edwin's a very large retail home builder. They do over 1,500 homes a year. This product they're all 2-story duplexes with an accessory dwelling unit in the back, and I think that's worked out really great for a couple reasons. We're getting more families housed per lot, but also that ADU is a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, similar to what you'd see in an apartment complex, but it's not in a high-density multifamily setting, and so it provides folks the ability to live in sort of a detached residential environment, but get that same rent price that they would get in multifamily housing complex.
Yeah. All right.
Different style, but same statute.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Director.
Thank you, Commissioner Gorman.
Yep.
All right. My only question is just to get clarification or confirmation that because the title for this item references 609, 619, 629 Amity, and the resolution that I see in here references 3 addresses on Allen Street.
That's a typo on my part. It should be those Amity addresses.
So to confirm, we are going to be approving for 609, 619, and 629 Amity. The resolution, before I sign it, will be updated to reflect the Amity addresses. Okay, cool.
Thanks for catching that.
And then roll call.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman. Yes. Commissioner Cochin.
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Yes.
Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item, N, Workforce Housing Restricted Covenant for Properties LLC for the same properties we just discussed. Commissioner Kilgo.
Motion to approve workforce housing restricted covenant as presented and to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Board.
We have a motion by Commissioner Kilgo, supported by Commissioner German.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah.
I personally, if staff would like to present still, great. I only pulled this one because it was connected with the other one and I had some questions about.
You didn't want to approve this out of turn.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct.
So if there's no further questions for staff on this item or additional commentary, we can go to roll call unless you have a burning desire to present on this item, Director.
No, sir.
All right. If there's nothing else, commissioners, roll call, please.
Commissioner Gorman. Yes. Commissioner Cochin.
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair.
Yes.
Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo.
Yes.
Commissioner German.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. That brings us to unfinished business. We have none. New business. We have none. Any other business, commissioners? Mr. Manager? No? All right. That brings us to general public comment. I have one form for general public comment. There's still opportunity to give additional public comment. Please complete the forms in the back room. Provide your name and home address. I will not be sharing your home address nor asking you to announce your home address. That's for our records. I will be acknowledging which neighborhood you are joining us from if you are a City of Muskegon resident. If you're not a city resident, which other township, village, or city you're joining us from. There will be phone-in comments. That's not right this moment, but to have at the ready, that number is 231-724-6721. Do not call at this moment because we've got some in-person comments to hear from. First up, we have Angel Kuhn joining us from Holton. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. As the mayor stated, my name is Angel. I am a resident of Muskegon County and a business owner here in the downtown area, as well as a community organizer and someone who is invested in seeing this city thrive, not just from the top down, but from the roots up. Tonight, I want to speak briefly on ethical leadership, equity, and the importance of transparency, especially when public trust is at stake. I'd first like to acknowledge that I do believe that it is possible for someone to hold multiple leadership positions, both within this body and with external entities, that it's possible to share aligned goals without having conflicts of interest. But when one person holds significant influence in both, particularly over matters like development, funding, or policy, it becomes imperative that the public not be simply told that this is how it's going to be. Instead, we deserve an open dialogue about any potential conflicts of interest so that public trust is preserved, not presumed, especially if conflicts of interest prevent elected officials from actively and engagingly serving their elected position. Our residents are watching. We are watching more and more every day, and many of us are working tirelessly to build the city up in our own way, which brings me to 238 Houston Avenue. This building is owned by a longtime Muskegon resident and grassroots developer who has poured years of sweat, equity, and financial investments into revitalizing the space located at this address. After paying off the water bill, he waited 8 months for service to be restored so that he could move forward with his permitting and further improvements. Instead of support, his home was suddenly slated for demolition due to it being unsafe or too delayed with the developments that they were pursuing. Now, I'm not here to point fingers or drag up the past, but I am here to say this, that we must make sure that the city of Muskegon is working for its people, not against them. Every resident, not just major developers, deserve access to resources, timelines, and fair treatment, especially our longtime citizens, especially those who are out here every week caring for our homeless through community cookouts. I fully expect to see more support from this body for this project moving forward and those behind it. And finally, I want to remind this chamber that the First Amendment doesn't stop at this podium. I understand sometimes residents come up here angry or emotional, but passion is not a crime. And frustration, especially from those who are trying to do right by their neighborhoods, should not be met with contempt or censorship. In closing, I would like to say, if you're in a position of influence, let that come with transparency. If you see someone investing in their community, lift them up, don't push them out. If there's a conflict of interest within our elected body, bring it to our awareness, don't make us call it out. If someone raises their voice or expresses their dissent, do not try and silence them, as that is their right. And lastly, I want this commission and everyone watching to realize that none of us are free until Palestine is free. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kuhn. Appreciate you joining us this evening. Next up, we have Mark Paletti joining us from the Beechwood Bluffton neighborhood. Good evening. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Hi there. My one observation, I didn't know if we could talk while Mr. Leeson was talking, but I was reminded when he initially, we had a vote on this, and we had talked about the concern. I had gone down to Grand Haven, and I talked to the people there that have a similar business about their feelings about launching boats and being on a bike pathway, and they thought that was kind of crazy. And we, at that point, were assured that we're going to have somebody monitoring all the boats that go in and out with these huge lifts. And that was a promise that was made. So I like the idea that we're talking about writing things down that have been promised along the way in this pathway. And I just hope that we can include something like that in the language if we're going to go ahead with Adelaide and them continuing to use that launch of ours. The other point I have is, with all the talk about fascism in the country, I looked up fascism and I saw FDR comment, his comment back in the 30s, and he was talking about it in terms of government doing the work of business and promoting a particular business entity or individual. And I'm afraid, I feel like we represent, or I feel like we put a lot of attention on promoting different developments. And we have many, many times brought up this whole thing with the Fisherman's Landing. And we continue bringing it out from our side as something that would be good from our government side. And he said that that is the actual definition of fascism, is when business interests are pushed by the government. And on that note, when we do vote on Fisherman's Landing, I don't think it is appropriate to have somebody that works for the Chamber of Commerce voting on that issue. It's a clear conflict of interest. And if you put it on AI, it will agree with you too. Not that I'm a fan of AI, but I don't think that it's appropriate to have Ms. Gorman vote on that particular issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paletti. Appreciate you sharing your perspective with us. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to give public comment at this time? No. We are going to go to the phones. Calling number is 231-724-6721. When you're calling in, please turn down any audio in the background, state your name, and if you're a City of Muskegon resident, which neighborhood you reside in, and if you're not a City of Muskegon resident, which other township, village, or city you may be calling from.
We do have a call, Derek Olson.
All right. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Hello. Thank you for calling from Lakeside.
Hi, my name is, Lakeside neighborhood, Derek Olson. I'm glad to be able to call in still. I appreciate you, Mayor Johnson, and the commission for allowing call-ins as I'm in the middle of a work evening tonight. And so my questions and concerns are about the Adelaide Point development. And I think that this current stage of this development is something that all the other developers who want pieces of our lake, which is a millions and millions of dollars asset, are watching. And we need to hold accountable these developers to the promises that they make to the city. And I feel like Mr. Liestema has this casual attitude that's a slap in the face to our city and a slap in the face to those of us that have spent years cleaning up the lake, which is now this millions of dollars asset. And we've given him and his people this huge chunk of our lake. We've given them this lake shore, we've given them our boat launch, and they don't want to cough up the money to get our portion of it done. And I think that what we have here is a really important experiment as to how the future development of the lake is going to go. We've got a lot of things going with developers that are making lots of promises. And if we don't nail those people down and hold them accountable to the promises that they made and the things that they're supposed to give the city, it's just going to fall apart. And I know that nobody wants to see a big dead development on Muskegon Lake, including myself. But if he's not going to follow through, we have to axe it. We have to axe it, and we have to pull the city's resources out of that project and talk to another developer who wants to finish it. And the resources that are in place down there, they're not just a ghost or some bones that are going to be there. They put in some infrastructure that somebody else will jump off of and use as a means to make a meaningful development on Muskegon Lake. And I think that, like I say, it's just important to use this one right now as a way to show how the city is going to force developers to come to the table with what they promised. And so I just hope that as we go forward with this benevolent commission who always seems to do the good things for the city will hold this development accountable to the promises that they made. And that's it, I think I have to say tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. Appreciate you calling in your comments and sharing your perspective.
Thank you, guys. Have a good.
All right. I heard someone trying to call in at the same time, so we'll give it a few more moments for them to call back. Maybe, oh,
Yeah.
there we go.
John Allen?
All right. Good evening, you're with the City Commission during public comment.
Hi, yeah, this is John Richard Allen calling back, especially in follow-up to the lengthy discussion. Just want to echo that again. These aren't going to be corpses on the lake. They're not at an area of a mall that is also struggling. Really, I just don't. To say I'm disappointed would be an understatement. Like what we saw tonight wasn't really a difficult decision. It was just a failure of will, like a capitulation, if you will. Like the development agreement was brought before you and us and it has promises and they came with deadlines. They weren't just suggestions. They were commitments. I don't understand how we ended up amending, like the letter in May has, if in the packet, it has a spreadsheet of all the things I referenced that aren't done. And I also can guarantee there are a lot more than $30,000 worth. And as the mayor referenced, why wouldn't it just be done if it was that simple? In a project that I heard the developer in the hallway in an interview talking about, how small $28 million is to 400 million or whatever numbers. But the issue really is, again, you set a precedent, a dangerous precedent. You've told every future developer that they don't need to respect the agreements they signed with our city. Like, why would they? They now know if they fail to perform, they miss their deadlines, they aren't going to face any consequences. Instead, they'll be rewarded with an extension. They'll be granted more time. While the public, once again, all into 2026, we don't get any of these improvements we were promised and told in 2022. Their own website on Adelaide Point has the 2 flagmen that were promised. I'd also like to add that I've spoke directly to members of Adelaide Point employees who have told me how dangerous that forklift is and that they do not have vision, and that is a complete lie. And there is a serious issue of safety that I watch every single day on that bike path, especially, God forbid, someone's child or someone gets away from. I mean, there are so many issues that require human engagement when you're trying to protect the public that I don't know. This isn't about being pro or anti-development. It's just accountability. For the taxpayers, simple fundamental principle that when you make a deal, you honor it. You need to be the most staunchest defender of our principle, not the first to abandon it. And really granting this extension, you've just weakened the negotiating power for every single project moving forward. You traded long-term integrity in our city agreements for short-term convenience of one developer. So I'm really kind of disappointed would be words. This decision was a mistake, and honestly, we as the citizens will be the ones, as always, to bear the consequences. And I can definitely say, I'm sure most of us would agree, we will be certain and not let you forget what we said about May, and especially with the December 1st deadline. Actually, I don't know how we were arguing about.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. That is your time. I appreciate you phoning in and sharing additional comments and perspective. Is there any?
No others.
No one else tried calling in?
No.
Okay. We'll give it just a few more moments, though. All right, so that concludes our general public comment. However, we are not quite adjourning yet because we have an item to address in closed session. Who is prepared to make that motion? Vice Mayor St. Clair?
I moved to go.
Sorry, before we do that, I just wanted to share with the public, because we are not going to be having a general session meeting here on October 28th. Early voting will have commenced, which will be in this room, so we are not having a general session on October 28th. And we're going to be having combined work session / general session on November 10th. Due to November 11th being a federal holiday, we're going to have a combined work session, general session on Monday, November 10th. So that is our next regularly scheduled commission meeting. Although there may be circumstances that necessitate special meeting, but that's not on our radar at this point. But I just wanted to acknowledge that before we wrap up. Commissioner Kogo, you have something to?
Yes. On that note, I have a sneaky feeling that November 10th, the chambers will be a little full with people, possibly. That on October 21st, there is a question and answer or a presentation for the Fisherman's Landing discussion at Muskegon High School at 6 p.m. So I did just want to let the public know about that. October 21st at 6 p.m., Muskegon High School.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, next Tuesday, 6 to 8 p.m. is the expectation. It'll be started with a brief presentation, followed by an opportunity for folks to come and get their questions, pose their questions, and get their answers from our city manager. And then also just to note, we do not anticipate the Fisherman's Landing Mart Dock Development Agreement coming to us on November 10th. That is presently anticipated to come to us on November 25th, as I understand it, that proposal. So, Vice Mayor St. Clair, take it away.
I move to go into closed session under Section 81E of the Open Meetings Act to discuss trial or settlement strategy with legal counsel in connection to the lawsuit titled Jerry Jewett v. City of Muskegon, case number 24-5323-No.
NO.
All right, thank you. Pending before the 14th Circuit Court of Muskegon County, discussion of this matter on open record would have a detrimental financial effect on the litigation or settlement position of the City of Muskegon, its employees, and officials.
Support.
All right, motion by Vice Mayor St. Clair, supported by Commissioner Kilgo. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cochin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor St. Clair? Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgo?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman? Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, we can take